Their patience, providing the person that we're negotiating with a voice, but there comes a time and a place where we have to demonstrate that we are serious, and the way we demonstrated it in this instance was we tightened our perimeter.
The men reportedly belong to a group that does not recognize U.S. laws. The remainder of the collapsed condo tower in Surfside, Florida will be demolished ahead of Tropical Storm Elsa, which is expected to hit the area early next week. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava.
We're doing everything we can to move forward with demolition as soon as we have a final path to do so, and we are so grateful to the governor, to the state, for stepping up and offering to pay for this demolition so that it can proceed expeditiously as soon as we have that final path.
The number of confirmed dead is at 24. Another high-rise apartment tower about 5 miles away has been evacuated because of structural and electrical concerns. Palestinian officials say Israeli war jets struck Hamas positions in Gaza. There are so far no reports of injuries. America is listening to Fox News.
Don't put off creating or setting up a will or trust because you think it's complex and expensive. With trustandwill.com, it's simple, convenient, and secure. For as little as $39, you can nominate guardians for your children, determine who gets your stuff, and plan for future medical care all online. Trust and Will is the most trusted name in online estate planning, having helped hundreds of thousands of people protect their families, assets, and legacy. Don't put this off any longer. Get 10% off plus free shipping at trustandwill.com/Fox.
As Americans enjoy the Independence Day weekend, prices at the gas pump are still higher than normal.
Gas prices reaching a 7-year high as some 48 million Americans hit the road this weekend. The national average, $3.12 a gallon, nearly $1 higher than a year ago. Lowest price, Louisiana at $2.75. The highest, California, where drivers in L.A. pay $4.79 for regular. In most areas, supply is not an issue, but in some cities at some stations, there is no gas. Why? A shortage of truck drivers. Hauling 10,000 gallons of fuel isn't for everyone. It requires certification and training. During COVID, many driving schools shut down.
Fox's William LaJeunesse. Chinese President Xi Jinping has sent a warning to the world while celebrating 100 years of the Chinese Communist Party.
A celebration of a century, 100 years of the Chinese Communist Party, complete with a show of force and a warning.
The Chinese people will absolutely not allow any foreign force to bully, oppress, or enslave us. Anyone who attempts to do so will end up with broken heads and bloodshed.
All part of a more aggressive tone from China's government towards the West, and especially the United States. The United States, under the Trump and now Biden administrations, has sanctioned Chinese Communist Party officials, initiated and maintained.
Hey guys, Mark Claire here, lionsofliberty.com, where we strive to advance the ideas of liberty daily. We bring you the Morning Roar. That's right, every Monday to Friday we'll have a brand new edition of the Morning Roar, where we provide a roundup of some news stories that you may not find in the mainstream media or even in your typical social media newsfeed. We find stories that relate to the ideas of liberty and provide you with our liberty perspective on them. Every Monday, we have our longest-running feature, Mondays with Murray, named after the great libertarian Murray Rothbard, where we'll examine an article or an excerpt from his works and help convey his view, along with our little spin as well. We wrap it all up every Friday with Felony Friday, where our own John Odermatt goes out and takes a look at some sort of felony. There's felonies committed every day, you know, whether it's a felony committed by the police, a politician, or even an average citizen. You can find all of this and so much more over at lionsofliberty.com. Advancing the ideas of liberty daily.
The NFL announces a new zero-tolerance policy on videotaped domestic violence. A puzzled nation can remember the name Ferguson, but is not sure from where. And a man wearing an M&M jacket is apparently made in God's image. This is the Onion Week in Review. Tech giant Apple unveiled a brief, fleeting moment of excitement to the general public. The short-lived, ephemeral sense of wonder was released in front of an exclusive group of reporters and industry insiders at Apple's Silicon Valley headquarters.
Apple really made us wait, but this rapidly diminishing glimmer of pleasure was totally worth it. It was 100% better than any other temporary joys I've ever experienced.
And in this week's local news, an uneasy détente forms between a man sitting on a patio and a bee. In other news, a poll finds 80% of Americans would get in a vehicle with a stranger for a chance at a new life. Bank of America introduces a new $50 underdraft fee, and the nation's huggers announce plans for you to get over here.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live here from the last full day of Fork Fest 2021 at Rogers Campground. And yeah, it's been a great year. It always is. I mean, Fork Fest is a great time. It's a lot of just chilling and hanging out. It doesn't have the high maintenance vibe that the Porcupine Freedom Festival has.
Yeah.
So with me today, it's Aria.
And the captain is here.
Aria is with me today, apparently.
Is Aria with you?
It's very early in the day.
The captain is with me, so that's fine.
All right. Well, we're all here then. So
all four of us.
Yeah. So anyway, another late night at Fork Fest.
Oh man, we hijacked the Free Talk Live campsite last night and had basically a full bar, mixed drinks. It started out with like 4 or 5 of us.
Sure.
And then it turned into like 10 of us. And then those 10 people somehow were replaced with another 10 people.
Right. I mean, that's how it goes here. Like people
and then it happened a third time. It was like 3 different waves of partying and carrying on and carousing and great conversations, had the fire going all night. People just came by and did donations, right? Like I supplied the booze. I'm like, if you want to donate, far out. I wasn't charging,
Sure.
like just come and have a good time. And people would bring over stuff. They brought over a couple of packs of wood for the fire. Had somebody bring over, it was Jay brought over some chili that his wife made.
Nice.
Here, I'm going to grab a couple cocktails and here's my donation. I'm like, that's awesome.
I didn't even know that Jay drinks at all.
I didn't see what he mixed, so maybe he made one without alcohol or
True.
something. I don't know, but it was great, man. Had a really good time.
So anyway, stuff is happening in the world, especially in the United States with the inflation of the currency and stuff like that. And you love alluding to the collapse of Rome and the parallels with the United States government.
I do. It's really, really interesting to see that something like this has happened before.
And will happen again.
It seems that way anyway. And, people always ask, well, what do you know about it? And I'm like, well, okay, I know that they, debased their currency and that created some sort of, weirdness within their structure, in addition to their warmongering and,
Sure.
military and all that kind of thing.
Well, war is expensive, and the Romans learned that, and they were like, okay, well, we can deal with this by inflating the currency.
Yeah. And in fact, if I remember correctly, the reason that they even had coins, right, the emperors, whatever the coinage that they had,
Sure.
was specifically to pay the military. Right, so they had all these, military folk warrior types, kind of Roman warriors and that kind of thing. And, well, because they couldn't pay them in, grain, for example, or salt or anything cool like that, they had to figure out a way to pay these fighting dudes. And so they created these coins out of valuable metals. And, the rest of the story, we can get into. But this is from FEE.
And that is the Foundation for Economic Education, correct?
Yes. The headline is How Roman Central Planners Destroyed Their Economy. And
well, central planners destroy everything, right? And it's amazing to have watched 2020 happen and so few people walk away with the lesson of, oh, yeah, these idiots don't know what they're doing.
Right. Or, well, I thought I had enough savings to retire, but it turns out I only have half of what I need. Thank you, inflation.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the big deal, right? I mean, especially with the collapse of Social Security that's imminent and all of these other things, people are going to wake up one day and realize that they actually live in poverty. Thank you, government.
Your 401k is going to be like a 200.5k. It's cut in half.
For sure.
Because the value of what you put in there is, declining every day. And it's not stopping. It's not going to stop. With the rate of new money being injected, either by way of banks creating money out of thin air by loaning.
Well, from what we can tell, it's only increasing, right?
Yeah.
Not just not going away, but actively getting worse.
Going to get worse. And so this is one of these articles, when I read through it, I'm like, I know all this stuff already, but it's always serves as a good reminder that there is a template to predict what this looks like. What does the fall of an empire look like? And I believe that we are in the downside of the fall of an empire.
It certainly appears that way. I mean, the American empire has wrapped up itself in two 20-year wars, and that's expensive.
Hundreds of bases around the globe that are nowhere near the United States of America.
Something like 600 or 700, isn't it? I mean,
it's a lot.
There's a reason the U.S. government spends more on military than I think every other nation combined.
Yes, that is correct.
They call it defense spending, but let's be honest.
I mean, in defense of their empire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not necessarily in defense of any people. But so the article goes, in 449 BC, the Roman government passed the law of the 12 tables regulating much of commercial, social, and family life. Some of these laws were reasonable and consistent with an economy of contract and commerce. So
I don't see how any law is consistent with such a philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Just let people be free, and they generally work out the issues themselves.
But it seems like they were at least basing their economy on contracts and commerce, so sort of a free market type thing. And like, if you contract with somebody to do a thing, then you write it down, and you're sort of bound to that contract. You agree to the terms of the contract. And so they started making laws around that stuff. But others prescribed gruesome punishments. Other laws that they made were very gruesome and assigned cruel powers and privileges given to some. Other regulations fixed a maximum rate of interest on loans of approximately 8%. The Roman government also had the habit of periodically forgiving all interest owed in the society. That is, it legally freed private debtors from having to pay back interest due to private creditors.
Well, why?
Now, just as a segue from some things that I learned about historical economies, there's a term that you'll bump into called jubilee. Jubilee. Every now and again, you'll bump into this for when you're looking at.
That just means like celebration,
nations.
though, right?
Well, what this means, it does, but what it means in the economic sense for some of these societies is debt forgiveness. This is how state currencies, they figured out a way to keep state currencies viable throughout their destruction of their economies, right? So if this were to happen in the United States right now...
they figured out a way to lengthen it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if this happened in the United States right now, you would see something like student loan forgiveness.
Right.
Which we've heard about in the news already, right? We've heard about different types of government programs trying to alleviate debt for certain people of different varieties, not just the student loans. That's just the big one that's in the news. So,
I mean, the big issue, as I can tell, with student loans is the fact that, the government will give them to literally anyone who applies for them, regardless of their level of responsibility, their credit history, or anything. It's like, hey, yeah, sure, we'll give you all the money you want.
Yeah, well, and
it's a recipe for failure.
And the people who are doing like a school or something, like a private school or a trade school, and they issue these loans to the students, they don't care because they don't have any teeth in the fight, because they know the loan is backed by the full force of the government, and they know that these student loans can't be forgiven through things like bankruptcy. So it is a win situation for the students. It's a win situation for the schools on the surface, but when you look at what happens as a result of these things...
Obviously, I mean, tuition goes up because you can just take out a loan from the government to continue paying for the tuition no matter how expensive it gets.
Right, and then if you do that and you are a student, you end up paying back that student loan for life.
Yeah, essentially.
$100,000 a year for school. I mean, come on.
I like to say that the first test of whether or not anyone should be in college is whether or not they have to pay for it. If you have to pay for it, you're not there on scholarship, don't even waste your time with it, because it's just gonna bankrupt you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you can go there on scholarship, great, do it. But if you're going to have to actually pay for it, you've already failed the intelligence test and shouldn't be there.
Yeah. If there's any young folks listening to the show who are thinking of, going to college, or perhaps you already went and you dropped out because you found out it sucked. If you're looking for a career path, I suggest the trades, right? Become an electrician. IT. IT as well. Yeah, absolutely. But like electricians, plumbers, carpenters, these types of people, welders, these types of people are the ones who, even if you drop out of high school and you go apprentice at one of these trade places and learn the trade the old way, by the time 4 years goes by, you'll already be thousands of dollars ahead of anybody your age.
More coming up from Fork Fest 2021. This is Free Talk Live.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correa, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live from Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. We are at Fork Fest 2021, and Fork Fest 2022 is definitely going to happen. You know, I'm starting to, again, kick around the idea of having it before the Porcupine Freedom Festival and just dropping the idea of Somalia Fest. Yeah, I see what you're looking at. Some logs seem to have fallen out of the fire and are just kind of burning the grass over there. And
we should probably do something about that. Oh, you got it? Okay.
yeah.
All right, cool.
Luckily, we have people listening who are going to fix it before we burn down a tree or something. So I don't know, man. There's lots in the air regarding Fork Fest 2022. I mean, who knows whether or not I'll even be, free to be here.
Let's hope you are.
I'm hoping so. But I want to tell you about Liberty stickers, because if you want to reach people with the ideas of liberty, you can do it from the back of your car with libertystickers.com. You can reach thousands of people with a bumper sticker, and everyone loves to read them. Check out the vast selection of witty, pithy, and downright awesome Liberty messages at libertystickers.com. That's libertystickers.com. Now, we're talking about what a complete and total waste of time. We were talking about the fall of the Roman Empire and its parallels to what the American government is doing today.
Yep.
Then we started talking about just how generally useless college education is.
Yep.
And I know a lot of college graduates. I'm a college graduate, but what I do today has almost no relation whatsoever to what my degree is in. My degree is in the management of information systems. I mean, to an extent, that's been useful for building the studio and doing all the networking stuff there, but a hobbyist is capable of that level of thing.
Right.
A degree isn't necessary. And ultimately, one could have done what I did for the last, well, not the last 3 years, but prior to that for the last decade, which is like an A+ certification or Network Plus certification, instead of, wasting time going to college.
I went to a 1-year school for audio engineering back in 92, right? And this was sort of the dawn of digital audio when everything was becoming digital. But like early versions of like Pro Tools software. This is audio software for our listeners who don't know.
I hate Pro Tools, man.
But like destructive editing was still a thing. They hadn't even invented non-destructive editing yet. So you would do a mix down, and then if you wanted to, like, oh, you know what, let's copy this chorus and add an extra chorus at the end of the song and paste it in right here. You could do that, but instead of taking, I don't know, 30 seconds for you to do that, which is what modern audio software can do, it would take overnight. And if you screwed up, you could not undo it. They didn't have any levels of undo. So most of my schooling was in either cabling, right, signal flow, right? Sound comes in through the microphone, runs down the cable, travels into this piece of gear, gets processed in that way, and then comes out over here, and then it goes to the tape machine over there, right? So signal flow networking is, the rudimentary networking is where that comes from. Now, I spent $13,000, right, in student loans to go to this school, which everything that I was taught and learned, except for like maybe tape editing, right? Like using a razor blade to cut actual tape and splice it together. Everything else that I learned at this school.
I thought that stopped during like the 80s. That
there's still a few old guys out there who do that.
Okay.
Old hands who can do that. And some audio engineers, larger budget, musicians will still record like drums to actual tape. And then once it's recorded to the tape, then they'll import those sounds into the digital domain because they just want to capture that warm sound that tape gives you when you record something to tape. But I spent $13,000 on this thing for what I could now likely learn for free on YouTube, in the course of a month or something like that, So I'm a little pissed about this.
That's understandable, right? I mean, knowledge is useful to have, but you're not wrong. Previously, I couldn't just Google audio issues, so I had to just, and I couldn't contact Ian, so I just had to do the best I could and trial and error and try to figure things out.
Yeah.
But as soon as I got permission to actually Google audio issues and look for solutions and how to fix them and stuff like that, I learned so much just in the course of an afternoon. I was like, oh, yeah, I was doing that totally wrong. Okay, this is better.
And that's how it goes. And so I have this other argument about since pretty much all of the knowledge that is taught in any public school curriculum is available for free on the internet. Right? As you just have a internet plan and you have internet access, then that makes public schools obsolete.
Well, they've made themselves obsolete throughout the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, there are now teachers who are, parents are like raising money to, like 5 families will pull together to pay a teacher's salary, and then she's just teaching their kids, and it's much more manageable. And
that's the old school way of doing it too. Like
someone said, "Oh, finally, this is an idea whose time has come," and I'm looking at them like, that was the way school was like a century ago, dude.
Yes.
Before the Department of Education came and screwed everything up.
They used to do the same with healthcare. Like you'd get a group of people get together, several families, and they would, figure out, okay, well, we need to pay the salary of a doctor, and then everybody gets to share that doctor, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And then it worked, and doctors had the right incentive, which they don't have now. The incentive that they had was they would get paid as long as everybody was healthy.
Right.
So they had the incentive to keep people healthy, right? And so if somebody got sick and that type of thing, then like their payment was reduced by whatever factor, they agreed to. So the doctor had incentive to not only get people healthy, but keep people healthy, which is the correct incentive.
Yeah.
Doctors today don't have that incentive. They have
still
the
do
incentive.
that in China, do they not?
I don't know. But doctors today in the U.S., the incentive they have is to push the drugs that the pharmaceutical reps have introduced to them.
Oh, absolutely. The pharmaceutical reps are the ones with all the money. They're the ones buying the yachts and the boats and the giant houses.
Well, and, evidence of there's many doctors who refuse to even explore non-medical health care. That is to say, they refuse to explore, herbology. Right. They refuse to explore, any kind of natural medicine or, even treat people with diet instead of drugs, that type of a thing. Right. Their only motivation is money.
Well, the medical industry is definitely broken. There are countless examples of people going to the doctor and they end up having these chronic illnesses that could have been detected and should have been detected. But the doctor was like, no, you just need to lose weight.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah. There's a story about somebody recently that was horrible. I can't remember what it was, but we keep hearing
there are
these
countless stories like that.
Yeah.
The American health system is fundamentally broken, and it's not going to get any better because of government regulation.
Well,
it's only going to get worse.
And they want more government involvement in your health care. And
the last thing I want is government involved in any aspect of my life, but certainly my health care.
Yeah. And I always point to, if you want to see what government does to health care, go hang out at a VA hospital for a while.
Yeah, but people don't seem to get that, right? The VA is miserable.
It's horrible.
And
horrifying.
And the wait is tremendous.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of horrific tales about somebody got sewn up after some sort of a procedure and the doctor left the scalpel inside of them.
Oh, God.
And so they went home and they were complaining of these excruciating pains in their gut or whatever.
Imagine.
And so they went to the emergency room that night and they got an x-ray done and they found a scalpel had been left.
God, that's horrifying.
Inside. Yeah, so.
Well, that's VA quality health insurance. I mean, that's certainly what people want, right? Is more of that, but for everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
So, we can also look at the Canada healthcare system and the UK's healthcare system and just see how government involvement in healthcare has never led to anything good.
Sure doesn't.
Central planners can't get it together, and we're going to talk about why central planners caused the collapse of Rome. More coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Are you making sense to the boomer mindset? I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com. 80 million baby boomers comprise 25% of the population and control most of the USA's wealth. As aging parents pass on, they'll control more. Boomers are 46 to 65 years old and regard themselves as midlife. They identify as neither young nor old. They're post-minivan and pre-retirement, and they don't like being called boomers. They think me. Many of the purchases boomer couples make are individual purposes. They've been experimenters all their lives. If you want their attention, tell stories and keep it simple. If something seems complicated, boomers can dismiss it as, I don't need this. And if you're looking for work, you may be applying to a boomer, so relate accordingly. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from PorkFest 2021. Crosby's actually going to come by today. I've been trying to get him all week, right? But he's a busy dude.
Yeah, we should definitely have him on.
Yeah, I mean, we get him on every year. Eventually, he gets the time to come by. He's going to take care of some things now, but we also went ahead and reserved our stuff for next year. So
awesome.
We will be here. I'll be here, assuming I'm not in prison. And hopefully next year, Ian can get clearance to come here. Since it is work, we are here working, doing, the show that we do.
Yeah, I think regardless of y'all's situation and the situation with the Crypto 6, Free Talk Live will find a way to have a presence here.
Absolutely. And if you don't know anything about the Crypto 6, then head over to thecrypto6.com. If nothing else, just watch the very short video there to get a brief highlight of what's going on. It's a really well-done video. I tried to include it in my presentation, but not PowerPoint, whatever the LibreOffice version of that is. It's uncooperative, so it didn't get played, which sucks because it's very well done, whoever did it.
Yeah, it's a short video, but it is compelling, to say the least.
It is. It's very well done. So thecrypto6.com if you want to learn more about that, because it may, in fact, prevent myself and Ian from being here next year because we may be in prison. Doesn't seem likely, but,
I really hope not.
Yeah, me as well, dude.
Nobody has been harmed. No property has been damaged. There's no crime, near as I can tell. Everything was done voluntarily in every aspect of whatever it is that they think they're investigating. I know that we know very little about the case because,
we're gagged.
Yeah,
we can't talk about it.
Y'all are gagged, and all we know is what's in the indictment, and that kind of a thing. So it is. To me, this looks like a targeted operation against either Free Talk Live, Ian Freeman, and anybody associated with him. It looks like a very targeted thing. They specifically came after him, obviously, and they've gone about it the entire wrong way. Just through violence and force, which is what government does. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well said. Can't comment, but well said.
Yeah.
So thecrypto6.com if you want to learn more about that. But we're talking about Rome here and the collapse of Rome and all of the things that led to that, including central planners who are actively working on centrally planning the United States and just doing an abysmal job. I've heard reports that there is now a child tax credit that basically results in people with kids receiving a check every single month. Every single month.
For each kid, yeah.
That universal basic income people were talking about, it just happened.
Yeah.
It exists now. Yeah. If you have children, if you want that free government money every single month, just pop out some kids.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Talk about rewarding irresponsibility.
Yeah, just go ahead and, don't use any sort of protection when you're having sex and, just ignore all of the, you can't afford to have a family? Doesn't matter. You'll get money from the government.
Yeah, and you're not going to get, the best echelons of people.
Don't have any skills, just procreate.
When you do that sort of thing, because then you have those unskilled people procreating and producing unskilled children who then go on to produce more.
From the perspective of the rulers, the masters in charge, it is a good way to create more slaves.
Yes, and that's what they want. They don't want the intelligent people going, you know what, I can't afford to have a kid and get them the life that I want, so let's not. They don't want us ultimately breeding. They want to encourage the masses to breed. And let's be honest, the average person is kind of stupid, and half of the population is below that. So
thank you, George Carlin.
Averages are what they are because half of the people are dumber than that.
Or below it. Yes, it's true. And I will joke around at my disgust with people, right? And it's really just, it's the population in general. Speaking of George Carlin, he made a mention of, we talk all the time about how the system sucks and how the rulers suck and all the things they're doing to us. But there's something else that sucks, and that would be the general population. Because how did these rulers get to where they're at? Well, the general population allowed it to happen.
Yeah, the general population put them there.
That's right.
I went to Shaw's yesterday to get some basic needs that I had.
The grocery store, yep.
Yeah, and I had someone run directly into me and then say, sorry, I didn't see you there because they were playing on their phone. Generally, in public, it's amazing how little awareness people have about the presence of others. This dude straight pushed his basket into a 6-foot-tall, bright red-haired tranny.
You're kind of hard to miss.
And then goes, I didn't see you. No, you didn't see me because you weren't looking where you're going. And don't even get me started on the people who walk backwards in public. It's like, dude, humans are not designed to walk backwards. You don't have rearview mirrors. Stop doing it.
Or how about the people where you're in the store and they both have a cart and they recognize each other. They haven't seen each other in a while, so they stop right in the middle of everybody's way to have this. Oh my gosh, how are you? I haven't seen you forever.
Or about the families that just walk side by side everywhere and take up the entire aisle, and you're trying to squeeze by them. It's like, excuse me, I just need that thing, and you got your whole freaking family in the way. Did you really have to bring 14 people grocery shopping with you? It seems like someone could have stayed home.
Yeah,
I just hate the general public, and this is why I stopped going to Walmart, right? Because Walmart's an evil corporation, but the environment in Walmart is one of the most evil things I've ever experienced. It's just a nightmare to go in there.
I even attempt to do, when I have to do shopping, I attempt to do it off hours. Before COVID, I would go in either early in the morning, right, with the seniors, right? Yeah. Because, they're not moving too fast, and I can navigate around them pretty good, even at my age and that kind of thing. I'm getting close to the senior age myself, so I shouldn't probably make too much fun of them. But
slow walkers also get me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Especially when they're not aware that they're a slow walker and they're just in your way, waddling down the aisle. It's like, excuse me, can you get out of the way?
But there used to be a grocery store in the Keene area that was open 24 hours. And
Really?
so when I would get done doing, say, an episode of Free Talk Live late at night, I would do my grocery shopping then. And guess what? It was great. It was
That's
like
the-
having the store to yourself. You might run into the occasional person who's like got a pallet in the middle of an aisle and he's trying to restock the supplies and that kind of thing. But outside of that, it was great to shop then. And of course,
The only
COVID
reason I
comes
shop
in.
at CVS is because they're open 24 hours a day, so I
Yeah.
can go there at 4 in the morning when no one else is there.
So COVID comes in, and then they stop being open 24 hours a day, despite the fact that they have 2 giant signs on the side of their building that says "open 24 hours," and they didn't turn those signs off for like months.
Wasn't it remarkable how that happened, though? Is like, okay, we want to minimize the amount of crowding people are doing, so we're going to cut our hours and funnel more people in here into that more limited time window.
Yeah, it would have made
completely
more
backwards.
sense to stay open 24 hours and put like a person limit or something on, however many people could be in the store at one given time.
A lot of people did that. I think Walmart at one point was using a person counter.
Yeah.
But I don't think they did it very long.
No, or
Especially there in
very
Keene.
well.
Yeah. I mean, how do you keep track of all the people who are constantly coming and going inside of a Walmart? Screw that. That, I mean, one of the most stressful jobs ever. Did I click that button enough times?
The only thing I could imagine is they put up like the subway style turnstiles
They did
for
that.
everybody to walk through, and then that way it clicks a thing and makes a check mark in a database somewhere, and the database is like, nope, sorry, you can't come in yet until somebody leaves on the other side.
Luckily, they didn't go that far, but they did put in turnstiles, and as far as I can tell, they're never going to go away.
Yeah.
The social distancing squares that are everywhere are never going to go away. Luckily, they did get rid of the little rat mazes that they put up all over these grocery stores. I stopped going to some of them because of this stuff. They were like, no, you have to go all the way around and then all the way back. And I'm like, I'm just going to go under this thing because it's just a little piece of rope. There's no one in the way, and I'm a human being who's not going to be led around like a freaking rat in a maze.
I would like to just point out that there is a surefire way to tell when something is off, something is awry, something is not cool. And that is when it gets a name that is an oxymoron. Social distancing.
Yeah, it's antisocial.
There's nothing social about being distant. You can't be social from a distance. It's not possible.
It would have been better, in my opinion, if they just said, hey, that personal space that you always learn to respect with other people, just do that.
Yeah.
But no, people don't generally respect personal space, and that didn't change during COVID.
Nope.
So if there had been an actual pandemic, we're screwed.
Yep.
More coming up from ForkFest 2021. This is Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live.
Sometimes you have to do things in emergencies that you don't do in normal time.
Like lock up Japanese Americans?
Look, you don't believe in the internment of the Japanese Americans?
The hell I don't. I don't believe in locking somebody up for not doing anything
wrong. Let me tell you
wrong.
something. There were Japanese Americans who assisted Japanese soldiers in the Hawaiian Islands at that
So
time.
grab all the families and throw them in a concentration camp. That's a great solution, Lou. That's something that should happen in the land of the free,
You see,
right?
I don't even like you using the term concentration
That's
camp.
what they were, Lou.
Because they were not death camps. They were.
It doesn't matter if there weren't gas chambers on
They
the
were not
premises.
death camps. You see, you're using euphemism.
I call them a concentration camp. You're concentrating people all in one location, Lou.
I don't, you're giving it an implication that it does not have.
I think you should go to the Japanese Americans and ask them, Lou.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Forkfest 2021 at Rogers Campground. And I would say, come down and hang out with us, but realistically, you probably, if you're not here already or on your way here, by the time you're hearing this, Forkfest is basically ending.
Unless you're in the campground, we do have a speaker pointed at the campground, and they can kind of hear us. So if you can hear us, come on over, say hello.
Yeah,
we've got a couple people hanging out already.
I mean, that's what Forkfest is. It's just people hanging out, having a good time. There are events and stuff like that going on. There's usually a poker game, but this year, the people who ran that poker game came up early and they got burned out, so they left a little bit early. It happens. I mean, it's a bit exhausting being up here in the mountains. I mean, if you're doing work here, it gets even more exhausting. And they were certainly doing work here. Of course, there's still Colin's Party Tent, and there are definitely, and there's still vendors, amazingly enough.
There's a bunch of vendors.
Yeah. There's a clothing shop down at the bottom of the hill that I had totally forgotten about that is still set up down there, so I may have to go check them out later. But I want to tell you about Liberty.menu. It's a tool for our community. At its heart is a repository of events, businesses, and more for libertarians around the world. There is no cost to use Liberty.menu, but there is a catch. To use the site, one must adhere to the principles of non-aggression. If that means you and you want to connect with other voluntarists, Liberty.menu is the place to do it. Use code FTL to get a special badge, too. Liberty.menu. Now, we've been sort of alluding to this story about ancient Rome before we get sidetracked and start talking about other things.
Yeah. Well, it leads into so many things because the parallels are strong with what's going on in today's society inside the United States of America.
I mean, let's not forget the year 2020, right? And how the American public at large and the central planners actually thought that they could plan their way out of a pandemic. We can solve this problem. it's insane the level of egotism that's been at play throughout the last year, that humans actually believed that by centrally planning, they could defeat a pandemic.
Yeah.
Absolutely absurd.
It is insanity to think that previously to the COVID, this was all medical decisions. This is all your general practitioner, your family doctor, whatever it is, would do some recommendations. Other things similar in, we'll say, threat to COVID, which is to say a 99 point, whatever percent recovery rate, more than 99% recovery rate. They would just issue advisements. Hey, wash your hands a lot. Sterilize some stuff if it makes you feel better.
Right.
Right. All these kinds of things. Those are the only things that anybody in the government would recommend. Much less impose with violence and impunity.
Yeah, the mandates was really where things got stupid, because everyone agrees that they shouldn't be necessary, right? Yep. And that they probably didn't help anything. I was arguing during my sheriff's campaign. I was arguing with someone about this on Twitter when they explicitly said, "Well, most people were wearing masks before the mandates." To which I responded, "Then why were the mandates necessary?"
Bingo.
And just like that, she was convinced. Okay, I see your point. This is tyranny, isn't it? Yes.
Yes.
If they have to mandate something that most people are already doing, and the few who don't want to do it aren't doing it because of whatever reason, then what you have there is tyranny.
Yep.
When you eliminate choice, you have tyranny.
Well, and there's this theory that a lot of people inadvertently subscribe to. They believe that laws are made for the many, when in reality, most laws are made for the few. A couple of people do a thing, and then all of a sudden the government comes in and they're like, oh, we got to pass some laws.
Just look at murder as the most obvious example of that. The vast majority of human beings are never going to murder anyone, whether murder was legal or illegal.
Right.
It's because those few people might commit murder that the government came along and said, okay, well, you can't do this.
Right.
But even if murder was totally illegal, the vast majority of people just wouldn't do it.
And let us not forget that the organization type known as government is the largest murderer on planet Earth.
Yes, by leaps and bounds, right? No
Orders
Ted
of
Bundy
magnitude.
or Jeffrey Dahmer ever came close to the sheer level of violence that governments historically have committed.
It's okay when they do it, but not when you do it.
That seems to be what they're alleging.
Like, I have already murdered as many people as I want to.
Which is none.
Which is zero, right? And so I don't need a law to tell me that it's not cool to murder.
Right. Neither do most Americans, but you look at movies like The Purge that operate under this insane delusion.
That's such propaganda.
Yeah, that if murder was legal, then suddenly everyone would be doing it. No, they wouldn't.
No, that's just to reinforce the statist indoctrination that if it wasn't for the government, everybody would suddenly go crazy and people would just start raping and murdering everyone everywhere, which is untrue.
It's clearly untrue, and most people innately know that it's untrue when they stop to think about it. Would you, listener, commit murder? Chances are the answer is no, and that's true of your neighbors as well. That's true of everyone you associate with. The idea of taking another human life, most people find it just innately horrific.
Yes.
So let's get back into this, let's get into this article.
So the article, started talking about kind of what Rome was doing. And it goes on to say the Roman government also set price controls on wheat. So this was...
thereby creating shortages.
Yeah. And this was, wheat was like a major form of trade, right? Grains and that type of thing, right?
Okay.
This would be barter. In the 4th century BC, the Roman government would buy grain during periods of shortages and sell it at a price fixed far below the market price. In 58 BC, this was improved upon. The government gave grain away to citizens of Rome at a zero price. So they gave it away for free. So they would buy when it was at a dip, and then they'd give it away for free later. The result was inevitable. Farmers left the land and flocked to Rome because, I can get grain for free. Why should I work my farm, right? The government's giving me free grain. This, of course, only made the problem worse, since with fewer farmers on the land in the territory surrounding Rome, less grain than before was also being grown and brought to the market. Also, masters were freeing their slaves and placing the financial burden for feeding them on the Roman government at that zero price for the grains.
Well, I mean, I guess it's good that people were, freeing their slaves at least. At least some good came out of this insanity. But, a lot of people probably starved as a result.
Necessarily say they freed them from their immediate circumstance, only to have them enslaved to the whim of the government at the time, because now they're dependent on the government for their wheat, their grains, their food.
And let's not forget about the fact that, this price fixing in the first place, it always creates a shortage. And I talked about this a lot when the NES Classic, it's a gaming console, came out. And it was like, oh, God, there's a shortage. It's impossible to get. But it wasn't impossible to get. It was impossible to get at that $30 price point.
Right.
But there was never a shortage of these things. There was a supply of them. You just had to pay more because that's how supply and demand works. If the supply is too low and the demand is high enough, people will pay whatever the seller is asking.
So in 45 BC,
it was in fact the scalping is what they refer to it as. It was the scalping that prevented there from being a shortage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because that's how it works. I mean, look at secondary markets for even like tickets to like concerts and sporting events and that kind of thing. That's the same thing. It's just supply and demand. The demand is way higher than the supply, so you're going to pay more if you want one of those things.
We almost ran into that with the Tool concert that I went to in 2019, which was we bought some of the very last tickets.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that. It didn't look like we were going to be able to get any. We, in fact, had to separate our group into 3 different sections because of not being able to get tickets. But it looked like at least one of us was going to have to go through one of these back channels in order to buy one.
Right.
And Ticketmaster and all of these other ticket companies are...
I'm sorry, you mean Ticket Bastard.
Yeah, they're going out of their way to make this impossible to do. Now you have to have your ID and it's sent to your smartphone, so you can't just stand outside the venue and sell it. So they're just preventing people from being able to see the concerts that they want to see.
Yep. So in 45 BC, Julius Caesar discovered that almost 1/3 of the Roman citizenry was receiving their grain supply for free from the state. So they created this problem where 1/3 of the people were basically sucking off the government teat.
Well, that was the inevitable result of giving away the food that they needed to survive.
So to deal with the financial cost of these supplies of wheat, the Roman government resorted to debasement of the currency. That is to say, inflation. Price fixing of grain, shortages of supply, rising budgetary problems for the Roman government, monetary debasement, and resulting worsening price inflation were a continual occurrence through long periods of Roman history.
Well, obviously, I mean, they can't actually pay for this sort of thing without inflating the currency, without increasing the money supply somehow, and they usually do this by making the money less valuable. What, by definition, that is increasing the money supply. More coming up about the fall of Rome and how it relates to what's going on in the United States today. Stay tuned. This is Free Talk Live.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. News.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 2 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
They're not sure who's responsible. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. That's what President Biden says about the latest ransomware attack that's affected hundreds of U.S. businesses and even more worldwide. President Biden says he's directed U.S. intelligence agencies to investigate who's behind the attack. Some experts believe Russian ransomware group REvil, which is blamed for the attack on meat supplier JBS about a month ago, could be responsible. Search efforts at the collapsed condo tower in Surfside, Florida have been suspended as crews prepare to demolish the remainder of the building. Governor Ron DeSantis says demolition workers plan to bring down the rest of the building before Tropical Storm Elsa hits.
We don't know when it could fall over, and of course with these gusts potentially, that would create a really severe hazard. So our mission is to expedite it as soon as possible. Kevin Guthrie reports to me that once everything is ready to go, it can be brought down within 36 hours.
The number of confirmed dead is 24. Tropical Storm Elsa is just south of Haiti as it heads north, but it's still not clear where it could hit the U.S. Fox meteorologist Adam Klotz.
We could see anywhere from a western track that runs up the west coast of Florida. We could see this running up the east coast of Florida. So that's something that's still to be seen. By the time you get into Monday morning, you're beginning to see some of those outer bands of rain hit South Florida. You're going to start to see some gusting winds hit South Florida. And that's when you can start to see some problems, even if that storm center isn't right over Surfside or any of those locations.
Elsa could cause flash flooding from Florida into southern South Carolina. The Palestinian Health Ministry says Israeli forces have killed a Palestinian man during clashes in the occupied West Bank. Also, Israeli aircraft struck several militant sites in the Gaza Strip in response to arson balloons Palestinians fired. America is listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer! But if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system. No matter how big your business grows, with visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow, all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
Los Angeles County courts will no longer stream court audio after recordings circulated online of Britney Spears' recent testimony regarding her conservatorship.
The Los Angeles courts shut down its remote audio attendance program as a result of the Britney Spears audio leak. Under California rules, no recording of court hearings are allowed, including members of the press, without advance permission from the judge in the form of a written order. According to the rule, any violation of this or an order made under this rule is an unlawful interference with the proceedings of the court and may be the basis for an order terminating media coverage, a citation of contempt of court, or an order imposing monetary or other sanctions. The leaked audio of Spears has been pulled. The remote program was started as a resource for reporters during the pandemic. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
Efforts are underway to end a grocery tax in Oklahoma.
Every time people go grocery shopping in Oklahoma, they pay 4.5% taxes on those goods. But that may all change amid bipartisan support to, for now, study scrapping Oklahoma's grocery tax to help fuel economic growth.
Lessen the tax burden for folks who are working minimum wage jobs, folks who are middle income.
Oklahoma House Minority Leader Democrat Emily Virgin wants to raise taxes on wealthier people to make up the difference. Republicans, who also support scrapping the grocery tax, say raising taxes is a far different conversation. Only 13 states in the nation tax grocery.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of
where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
Today's most popular video games take place in dangerous post-apocalyptic landscapes. But are these games doing enough to prepare our kids for the actual post-apocalyptic future we will all soon face?
I think these games are quite effective at teaching our kids skills like finding shotgun ammo and leading elite squads of super soldiers.
But these aren't the advanced skills that they're going to need. They're going to need the more practical skills like how to find drinking water by collecting the morning dew in human skulls.
Or how to deal with depression when the sun is blocked out for 500 years by a cloud of radioactive dust.
Absolutely. Now, that's the type of knowledge these kids are going to need when their world has been turned into a brutal hellscape.
But these kids said that they know how to find items to barter at weapon shops and how to use medicine packs to heal zombie bites.
The games make it all seem deceptively simple. I mean, in the future, a kid's not going to be able to kill a 6-foot-long irradiated beetle just by pressing a few buttons, and he's going to have to get down there with an axe and hack and hack and hack.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live from Fork Fest 2021, the last full day of the Fork Fest party.
Saturday.
It is going to be a party tonight for sure. They're having fireworks down there in the bowl, rain or shine. They're doing it every year, evidently. There's some. I forgot to. I'll see him later. I forgot to ask Crosby about the fireworks situation next year, with July the 4th being on a Monday.
Right? Are they gonna do it on the weekend, or are they gonna wait till the actual 4th? Or
Well, Ian told me they always do it on the Saturday around the 4th. So
what if the 4th is on a Wednesday? Which Saturday do they do it? The Saturday before, or the Saturday after?
I don't know. These are questions for Crosby, and he'll be back later. So if I remember, I won't remember, but. Hopefully, I will remember, even though I know I won't. So we're talking about this article from FEE here, which is the Foundation for Economic Education, and just some of the similarities between what the Roman Empire did versus what the American Empire is doing
the headline
today.
The headline is how Roman central planners destroyed their economy.
And it sounds like they did a bang up job destroying it. I mean, the consequences of this should have been obvious, right?
Anybody with logic, the rudimentary logic, should have been able to go, oh, if you do this, you should expect this outcome. But for whatever reason, nobody did that.
So they started out by buying up grain in periods where there wasn't a lot of grain to go around, and then selling it below market value.
Yep.
And that wasn't enough.
And then eventually giving it away for free.
And then they looked around a few years later and went, oh, man, it turns out that we're feeding a third of the population for free.
And also reduced the number of farmers and farm workers because they could just come to the city and get grain for free.
Yes, a series of stupid missteps that had predictable consequences to anyone who bothered to think about what they were actually doing and what the consequences would actually be.
Yeah, so they instituted price fixing. They started debasing the currency, which is to say, instead of making their coins, fully out of gold or silver or something like that, they would partially make them out of gold and silver and not tell anybody about it.
And if that sounds familiar, you might want to take some of the coins that you have that are made after 1964 and see how much precious metal is actually in them. The vast majority of them are made out of zinc.
Yes, it's true. They're barely coated in, something that resembles the metal that you might think they're made out of.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are made out of aluminum and zinc.
Oh, weird. That's what Rome did with their coins. They would do these false centers and then dip them in the metal of choice so that they looked like they were fully made out of gold or silver or whatever.
I mean,
they just had a false center.
Just take a quarter out of your purse or pocket or whatever and look at its side. You can clearly see it's two different metals.
Yeah.
Versus if you have a 1953 quarter or whatever, it's actually silver. And it looks silver. It looks different.
Well, and people would do with the Roman coins, too. They would, when they were made out of, full precious metals, they would take them and, like, shave off little bits.
Yeah.
Right. And then, melt them down themselves and either make a coin or a jewel or something valuable out of that and then trade that. And so that's how they would extract additional value from the coins, because you could still spend the coins even if they were like shaved off on the side a little bit and that kind of a thing. People would still accept them because, well, they believed that it was the full value of the coin. And so there's all sorts of this thing going on that the government couldn't control. And so and then the government was just like, well, if everybody else is doing it, we should do it.
Well, they had to pay for stuff, right? They had to pay for their soldiers. They had to pay for this grain somehow. And you would sort of assume, I would imagine the Roman citizen would assume that money that, the government was distributing would be sound. Turns out that's not ever the case when you get states involved with currency.
Yeah, there should be a separation of money and state, right? Everybody talks about the separation of church and state when it comes to, the United States of America and, Western type of cultures. There should be a corresponding separation of money and state at a minimum to begin. Everybody knows that I'm a fan of eliminating the state entirely, which would, of course, achieve the separation of state and money.
Yes. But I mean, economy and the state are always at odds because the economy is the means of production and the state is the means of destruction or it's
the enforcement arm.
How did Rothbard put it? There's the means of production and there's the means of predation. Maybe that was the term he used.
I don't remember.
I mean, you have two ways of acquiring something that you want. You can either produce something and, trade for it or whatever, or you can do what the government does and just steal it.
Right.
And that's all the government is. It's an organization that steals.
So then the Roman government started putting in price controls and price fixing. And the most famous episode of price controls in Roman history was during the reign of Emperor Diocletian. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. He assumed the throne in Rome in AD 284. Almost immediately, Diocletian began to undertake huge and financially expensive government spending projects. Sounds like Biden. There was a massive increase.
Speaking of Biden, have you seen the your 4th of July barbecue is 16 cents cheaper thing? It's so cringeworthy, man. Because he's like, hot dog, look at this. Oh, God. Ketchup on the news, spelled ketchup like, ketchup the condiment.
K-E-T-C-H,
yeah, and it's like, this is a tweet from, let's be honest, the dude had no malarkey written on his bus, right? So he's hopelessly out of tune with the modern world.
Yeah.
But it's just so cringeworthy, man.
Yeah. Oh, 16 cents cheaper on your barbecue, but, well, your money is worth far less this year than it was last year or the year before that, or the year before that.
So your barbecue may be 16 cents cheaper, but the gasoline that you're going to consume in order to go to the store and get those
doubled in price?
Yeah, you're going to burn that 16-cent savings on gasoline.
Easily.
Yeah.
If not on, the buns, the cheese, the chopped onions or whatever it is, the relish that you're going to put on your hot dog or whatever it is. Maybe you don't eat hot dogs. You're just going to have steaks. Did you save anything? Nope. Gee, thanks, Biden.
Yeah, because that's 16 cents. I mean, that's not a lot of gasoline. That's going to take most people I don't know. I can't do that kind of math off the top of my head to figure out how much it is per gallon versus the average mile per gallon. It's just not worth it. But yeah, it's absurd, man. He's like, clearly the Biden economic plan is working. What economic? Do you have an economic plan?
No, he doesn't. He's an economic idiot.
I don't think he knows what's going on half the time.
I mean, some of these the politicians may be idiots, but they have advisors who supposedly are not economic idiots, but they only act in the best interest of the state instead of the best interest of the people.
Right, and the best interest of the state is to have all of the money coming back to the state.
Yeah.
So that they can pay for their bombs and their drug war and all of this nonsense.
And since it is Saturday, it is, the Independence Day weekend, so to speak, July 4th, that type of thing. We should probably mention a little bit about that. And I don't think we need a holiday to celebrate independence. I think independence should just be a way of life for most people. You should be independent of the state.
We should secede from the United States on this Independence Day. We should declare our independence from the United States government.
Agreed.
From the parasitic, murderous organization that is the United States government. That's
Agreed.
what I would like to see.
And
let's do something useful for the world and secede from this overblown, tyrannical organization.
There's a lot of people out in the world who think that Independence Day, a.k.a. the 4th of July, is a holiday to get drunk and barbecue.
It's not.
It shouldn't be. I mean, that's what most people treat it as.
Sure.
Right? And don't get me wrong, I love getting drunk and barbecuing, right? I'm of that ilk, but I don't need this particular holiday to do those things. This particular holiday is called Independence Day, and it's supposed to be the celebration of when a certain group of people relieved themselves of the responsibility of another state.
Yeah, I think last year I was describing it as Happy Shoot the Government Day.
Nice.
Well, not something I'm going to be saying this year with the FBI watching me so closely, but I mean that's what they did. They shot at their government.
Yes, that is what they did.
I'm not saying we should do that, but that is what literally happened in 1776.
Yeah, they were whiskey drinking, law breaking anarchists, if you will.
Well, they weren't anarchists, certainly.
They
were classical liberals
in spirit, I think, with their
but
desire.
They created a state.
But they desired to separate themselves from the state that was oppressing them.
Just so they could create a new state. Though.
They didn't know any better.
Yeah. More coming up on this Independence Day celebration from Fort Fest 2021. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and I already have to correct myself. I think I just said that it's Independence Day. It's not. It's the Independence Day weekend, but
it is.
Generally speaking, I don't know what day it is. Plus, we're doing a show that is going to be broadcast later. We're normally ahead of the schedule here, but it's been weird this year. There's not a lot of people walking around to talk to because it's rainy and a bit cold. But
well, and I think we changed our format a little bit too, where like last year we would record and it wouldn't show up until the next day.
That's what I'm referring to. So we were usually a day or two ahead.
Right, yeah.
And that was so that we could take the 4th of July off in order to, actually party and have a good time. This year we're actually doing that as well, considering on the actual Independence Day, it's going to be Ian and Bonnie and presumably some other people at their studio.
Right.
So
there will be a live show on Independence Day.
Yes, but just go ahead and accept the fact that I'm going to keep saying that it's Independence Day because in general, I've been here for 2 weeks. I no longer know what day it is. So we're talking about, before we get started talking about that, we're talking about the Roman Empire.
Yep.
And the absurd things that they did to create a bunch of problems, and then what they did to try to fix those problems, which obviously just made the situation worse, which caused them to do more things to fix those problems, which ultimately led to the downfall of the Roman Empire.
We're from the government, and we're here to help.
Yes,
they're
not very good at that.
As old as Rome, if not older.
And the resulting collapse was predictable, just as predictable as the fact that if you start giving away free grain, you're going to get people coming for free grain, and people are going to stop growing their own because why bother if the government's just going to give it to you?
Well, the story gets better because this guy Diocletian, got into power. He began to undertake huge and financially expensive government spending projects. There was a massive increase in the armed forces and military spending.
Shocking.
Weird. A huge building project was started in the form of a planned new capital for the Roman Empire in Asia Minor, present-day Turkey, at the city of Nicomedia. He greatly expanded the Roman bureaucracy, and he instituted forced labor for the completion of his public works projects.
Oh, good. Slavery. That's always the go-to for these things when they start collapsing. Let's just enslave everyone then.
Yeah.
That didn't work, so let's turn the entire population into slaves.
Well, and now you got to think about how is he going to finance all this stuff? Well, you
don't have to finance slavery.
Well, to finance all the government activities, Diocletian dramatically raised taxes on all segments of the Roman population. This resulted in expected disincentives against work, production, savings, and investments that have long been seen as the consequences of high levels and rates of taxation. It resulted in a decline in commerce and trade.
Not to mention the debasement of the currency, which also contributed to exactly those same problems. People don't want to save a currency that is, losing value.
Well, when taxation no longer generated enough revenue to finance all the activities, Diocletian resorted to debasement of the currency. Gold and silver coinage would have
further
debasement. Yeah, gold and silver coinage would have their metal content reduced and reissued by the government with the claim that their metallic value was the same as before.
Well, that's technically true. It's just a different metal.
Right. The government passed legal tender laws requiring Roman citizens and subjects throughout the empire to accept these debased coins at a higher value stamped on each of the coin's faces. This is known as fiat currency.
Yes.
Is what this is known.
It's like you can't accept, a $5 bill or a $1 bill at the value of a $5 bill.
Right.
You have to accept it as a 1 or a 5 or whatever arbitrary number the government has stamped on it.
And the result of this was, of course, inevitable, since in terms of the actual gold and silver contained in them, these legal tender coins had a lower value. Traders would only accept them at a discount. That is, they were soon devalued in the marketplace. People began to hoard all the gold and silver coins that still contained the higher gold and silver content and using the debased coins in market trading. Of course you would.
Yeah, you want to get rid of the bad currency and keep the good currency.
This, of course, meant that each of the debased coins would only buy a smaller quantity of goods on the market than before. Sound familiar? Like, wow, $5 today, buys far less than it did 10 years ago.
Yes,
right, so
and significantly less than it did 100 years ago.
Yes.
I mean, people don't realize the scale of the devaluation of the USD. It takes $20 to buy today what $1 would have bought in 1914.
Yeah. So the money became so far debased that this happened. Diocletian also instituted a tax in kind. That is, the Roman government would not accept its own worthless, debased money as payment for taxes owed. Since the Roman taxpayers had to meet their tax bills in actual goods, this immobilized the entire population. Many were now bound to the land or given occupation so as to assure they had produced the products that the government demanded as due at tax collection time.
So the government no longer took money.
Their own money.
Their own money. You had to pay them in actual goods and services.
Yes, they were like, you all have to trade in the money that we impose upon you, but when it comes time to pay us for the tax that we've levied upon you, you cannot use this crappy currency that we've imposed upon you. You must give us your wheat or your horses or, 2 fattened calves or whatever it's going to be.
I mean, that sounds like the state. It sounds like warlords in action. And if people think anything has changed, then they just need to take a look around.
Indeed, they do. The worst was still to come. In AD 301, the famous Edict of Diocletian was passed. The emperor fixed the prices of grain, beef, eggs, clothing, and other articles sold on the market. He also fixed the wages of those employed in the production of these goods. Minimum wage, anybody? Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Yeah, I think it does. The penalty imposed for violation of these price and wage controls, that is, for anyone caught selling any of these goods at a higher than prescribed price and wage, was death.
Death?
Death. Yeah, so the government imposed a minimum wage and imposed prices, and if you were caught trying to either work for more or sell your product or service for more, then what the government said was they would kill you.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt punishment for violating laws was significantly worse back then than it is now. I mean, they used to cut off your hand for theft and stuff like that.
But let's not forget for a minute that even in today's society, today's government, right, that there is no law so arbitrary that they will not kill you for it.
Right.
Right. It's not as frequent. It's not as dire as it was, say, in the Roman area. But
Eric Gardner died on the streets of New York for selling cigarettes.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's pretty dire.
Kids are getting tased by cops for vaping in a public area. All sorts of things. They are willing to do violence to enforce any law. All laws are backed by the force of a gun.
Yeah, and if you were to pay someone below minimum wage or something today, the government would come and they would take issue with that. And then if you still refuse to bow to them, eventually, yes, they would. The punishment would still be death.
Yes,
the punishment for all crimes is death, one way or another. Whether or not that you force them to, whether or not you require them to take it that far or not, they will ultimately kill you.
Yeah, and I mean, the parallels to what Rome has gone through and what the United States of America is currently in are just scary, man. The more I read about it, the more I'm like, there's a template that they're following, and you can kind of predict the future if you just open a frickin' history book.
More coming up from Fort Fest 2021. This is Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed. But that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Fork Fest 2021 here at the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. At Rogers Campground, it's always a great time to be here. Whether you're here for Fork Fest or just here year-round. I mean, some people came to Fork Fest last year and just loved it so much that they bought a trailer here and just never left, right?
That's true. I've met at least one of those people.
Yeah.
Or I knew them already, and then I was like, you did what? Oh, wow, geez, man.
So it's a great time, and a lot of cryptocurrency gets spent here. Not by me these days, for obvious reasons. But if you don't know what cryptocurrency is, and you've been living under a rock, It's time to fix that. Go to bitcoin.com and click Get Started at the top. There's a number of short videos there that will teach you the basics of cryptocurrency, what it is, how it works, why it's important. But if you already know how this world-changing technology works, Bitcoin.com still has something for you at news.bitcoin.com, where you can stay up to date on all of the news and headlines that's relevant to you. News.bitcoin.com. Now we're joined now by Clamoring. And
who you've hosted the show a couple of times, right? Or co-hosted?
Yeah, just once.
On a couple of times.
Okay.
But I call in frequently.
Okay.
So give us an update on what's going on with co-host of the show who remains in jail, Rich Paul, also known as Nobody.
So Rich was recently involved in an incident while he was in jail. Well, he is still in jail.
And I just want to say to our listeners that this is one of the Crypto 6 that we're talking about.
Correct.
So, and before you go on, I just want to say, when Nobody was running for governor, I thought that him changing his name from Rich Paul to Nobody was a genius move, right? Particularly from a activism standpoint, a publicity standpoint, and a humor standpoint, because he's a funny dude.
He is.
And I love humor. I also consider myself a funny dude. And the joke is still going. So, for example, in his bail hearing, they presented a thing in the Zoom session that was, the United States versus Nobody.
I know, that was hilarious.
I just and for the next hearing, if they do another Zoom hearing, I'm imploring anybody who joins the Zoom meeting to change their screen name to Nobody, so we can all be Nobody during his hearing.
That's a great idea.
Anyway,
As far as no, it's fine.
I'm surprised they've been allowing people in who aren't using their legal names, because you're required when you join one of these things to use your legal name.
I never saw anything that said that. So my Zoom session, of course, just says Captain.
Yeah, like I said, I'm surprised they're allowing people in.
I mean, it has to be open to the public.
Right. If you go to a courtroom, it's not like, they can say, oh, no, we have to have your name.
But you don't typically show ID or anything to get into jail.
Right.
Or court.
Court, right.
Same thing. And not to get too off topic, but there was recently an article that I read about where someone was in a court hearing and they had forgotten to change their screen name, and it was something completely inappropriate. I can't say on the air, but and the judge.
So tell us about this incident with Nobody.
So basically, he was jumped by another inmate for, as far as I understand, failing to put a broom away in the place that the other inmate wanted it to be. And
well, I mean, if you don't have any control over anything in your life, then little things like that can become very important to you.
Definitely. And, it's not in his nature to be violent at all. So he basically just bear hugged the guy until the guards got there.
Okay.
And for that, because the court does not distinguish between who is the aggressor and who
Well, this would be the jail, not the court.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. They don't distinguish who was the aggressor. And so they put them both in segregation, in solitary confinement.
Well, why would they want to, work out the details of who's the aggressor? That's just work for them. When they're tyrants, they can just throw them both in the hole.
That sounds a lot like one of my former sets of parents, where me and my brother would get into a fight and they didn't care who started it, and they just separate us and ground us to different rooms or whatever. It's weird.
I mean, except this is a lot worse than parents, saying go to your room.
Absolutely. I'm not trying to,
This is a man who's being held in
yes.
a cage and is now being put in solitary confinement because someone attacked him.
Absolutely. My illustration here is just to point out that the state, no matter what its form, acts as your daddy.
Well, and for the second time also. I mean, he was in solitary confinement when he originally was arrested for COVID reasons.
They threw me in medical.
Okay. Yeah, I heard about that.
But that's because they didn't know what to do with me. So that's going to be a fun lawsuit one day.
That was a big question in my head. I was like, where's Aria?
Well, the answer is obvious, right? And the Biden administration is fixing it. Well, it should be. It should be obvious. I don't know why you're sitting there saying it's not.
It was not obvious to me, I guess.
Well, that's kind of screwed up, but carry on with your story.
I mean, that was pretty much the end of it.
Oh,
he's still there. He's
still in solitary. Do we know how long?
He's still in solitary. He was supposed. They haven't told him. That's really the messed up thing.
Jeez, man.
He was thinking, and I just talked to him yesterday. He was thinking maybe 7 days, but he didn't know. Nobody had told him. In fact, I called his lawyer the other day and said, "Hey, this is going on. Can you get him out of seg or something?" And he was not hopeful. And I was like, "Can you please just call Rich? Because he's only out for an hour a day, so he calls me during that hour. But lawyers can call in anytime they want."
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine there's a whole lot an attorney can do to get someone out of, punitary segregation. I don't know.
It's worth a try, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So has a appeal of his detention hearing or detention order been scheduled yet?
Okay, so there's 2 upcoming hearings, as far as I understand. The first one is for his seg hearing. So that hearing will determine whether or not he stays in segregation.
Right, that's within the jail.
Within the jail.
Yeah.
And then the other one will be for his bond hearing. And that one, the bond hearing has not been scheduled. Neither of them have been scheduled, actually.
So that's his appeal to the decision, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And that one will be before Judge LaPlante, right?
I don't know the name of the judge.
I think it's the
same guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened with? It's all very confusing, and a lot of people ask me, what's going on with this? I don't know. I can't have any contact with him.
Right.
Ask someone who can have contact with him. But what happened that caused him to not be released in the first place?
So as far as I understand, he declined to have an initial bond bail hearing, and I don't know the difference between the two. I'm not a lawyer, but he declined the initial hearing on advice of his initial representative.
Okay, that's what I had heard, but I didn't know if that was true or not, because it doesn't seem like advice that he would take. But I mean, there's a lot to be said for, choosing to fight a battle on another day or whatever, and that's probably what the attorney was thinking. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. There was some speculation amongst us that maybe he was doing this on purpose, as a strategy. And
I don't think that was the case.
I couldn't see how that would be a successful strategy. So I was just kind of in the dark about the whole thing. So thanks for the elaboration.
Then he's made the comments on the recorded line.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I did see the bail hearing, the Zoom session for that, as well as all of the other Zoom sessions for, Ian and that kind of thing. So
just to clarify, those comments were regarding... He had just found out that his...
This is all available on Court Listener as well.
Yes,
it's publicly available information for anyone who looks into it.
Yep.
He evidently made some statements that probably he shouldn't have made on a recorded jail line regarding, shooting pigs and things like that, while it's the pigs who are overseeing him and not wanting to release him. But, people get frustrated. I mean, if you throw an animal in a cage, it becomes frustrating.
Well, he was still in quarantine for COVID for that.
Right.
He was in solitary confinement for 2 weeks and was at the end of his rope and had just found out that his friend, who was a young girl, what had happened to her during the raids.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everyone was frustrated, and being put in a cage doesn't make anyone less frustrated or decrease their anxiety at all. It just turns them into a caged animal, which you got to expect to lash out. More coming up from Fort Fest 2021. This is Free Talk Live.
Fact. The new NSA data center in Utah requires 1.7 million gallons of water every single day to operate. Billions of Fourth Amendment violations need massive computers and the water to cool them. That water is being supplied by the state of Utah. Fact. There's absolutely nothing in the Constitution which requires your state to help the feds violate your rights. Our message to Utah: Turn it off. No water equals no NSA data center. Visit offnow.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live from the last full day of ForkFest 2021, but we've already locked it down. We're going to be back here again next year, so get down here next year if you've already missed us. I want to say thank you, though, to Chris Hickman, who is tonight's amplifier.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris is a gold level amplifier, which means that he's giving $2 per month to the AMP program. You can find out more about it at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com. Stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote because its money is used strictly to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. So if you like the show, if you like what we're doing, coming out on site and interviewing interesting people, you might consider joining the program. Find out more about it at amp.freetalklive.com. Now, we all like making fun of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's pronounced Alexandria O-Crazy-Ho Cortez. Oh, crazy ho is the important part.
I don't think she's crazy, and I actually respect her as a person. She just says stupid things, but so do all politicians.
Is she a politician?
Yeah, that's literally what I just said.
Then she is crazy.
Well, she's evil.
Fair point.
But I don't think she's crazy, except that she doesn't recognize that she's evil. What's crazy is that the Gulf of Mexico caught on fire, apparently.
I saw just a little bit of video like late last night of what looked like a fire underwater. Somehow there was a drilling station. You've seen these on the television before, and then next to it, within a couple 100 feet or something, was what looked like fire underwater, bubbling. It was the weirdest video I think I've ever seen, at least this year.
I first saw it on social media, on Facebook, which is the only social media site that I'm allowed to legally use at the moment. And I was like, that can't be true, right? And it didn't even hit the news until a little while ago when Fox News finally brought up a story about it. So it's true. There was a pipeline rupture, and somehow it caught on fire in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. And if you haven't seen the video, just Google it. It's absolutely bizarre and one of the strangest things you'll ever see. The ocean is on fire.
Yeah,
that's something only humans could accomplish, right?
Like the water is boiling somehow, but underneath the water is where you see the orange and red of the actual flames. It's not burning on top of the water.
Wait, it's in the water itself that it's burning?
Right.
Well, yeah. You've got to look at pictures of it and video of it, man.
It's so
insane.
bizarre. It is just bizarre. I've never seen anything like it.
Huh.
Just think about it. The ocean is on fire.
Yeah.
Think about how weird that must look.
And how does it burn if there's no oxygen because it's in the water?
Don't ask me,
Good
dude.
question.
There is oxygen in water, but it's got to be separated from the
And-
hydrogen to qualify. I mean, that's
And it is fuel, so fuel burns, oil, that kind of thing.
it still needs oxygen.
Yeah, it still needs
though.
oxygen, though.
So it must be getting a supplement of oxygen somewhere. I imagine that they just allowed it to burn out, that it, after some time it burned out.
Well, how do you put out a fire in the ocean? Clearly, water is not stopping it.
right. Yeah. Quick, somebody get some, wait, what do we get?
It's just amazing to me that, human beings managed to catch an ocean on fire. And if that's not a hallmark of our stupidity, then I don't know what else could be.
If I were a biblical type person, I might think that this is a sign of the apocalypse.
It makes me chuckle. I don't know if we're stupid, but it certainly makes me chuckle.
Oh, well, humans caught an ocean on fire, Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you define as stupid, but I would say a species that manages something like that is stupid.
Not real smart, or at least smart enough to be dumb.
Yeah.
Certainly it was a mistake. Certainly somebody screwed up, I would imagine, but...
Well, you have to screw up on multiple levels to catch an ocean on fire.
I agree with you.
That's not like I stubbed my toe on this
screw-up.
rock. That's a series of bad decisions.
Probably.
Was there any more about what happened and how it
Not really. It
just
just
the video
talks about it.
is just weird to see. Yeah.
It just says, "Hey, this is a thing that happened." Evidently, they were using boats dousing the underwater fire with more water because there clearly wasn't enough water in the ocean.
I don't get this. Why do they even worry about it? It'll go out on its own, won't it?
I don't know. Maybe it won't.
The Great Ocean Fire of 2021.
Wouldn't it eventually burn itself out anyway?
Okay, so if you look at above ground oil fires, these things happen. They're incredibly difficult to put out, and eventually what they need to do is cap the oil well itself because it's just providing constant fuel for the fire.
Sure.
So if something similar to that is occurring, except in water, it's not going to burn out until all of the oil has been burnt, in theory, if there is an oxygen source.
Well, they're describing it as a leak, right? And, that makes sense. There are leaks with oil in the ocean all the time, but that doesn't explain how fire got introduced into the equation. So I understand you have an oil leak.
Or is this like an inactive well?
Well, it was clearly active. It's clearly active. It was pumping out oil, right? And then there was a leak, and then somehow there was a fire. But there don't appear to be any details about the fire, except it took them about 5 hours to extinguish this oceanic fireball that somehow occurred as a result of this leak. Well, they're in the ocean. There's plenty of water to use.
Sure. But you would think that, I don't know, you think they'd have to, working in the ocean is going to be a challenge, right? So you would think it would be they'd have to cap it and go down there somehow.
Well, I imagine they do have ways of sealing it off. I don't know.
Wait, so they did extinguish it?
Yes.
Okay.
The fire in the ocean has been extinguished.
Unless they extinguished it, but they didn't cap it. I don't know. I don't know how they would have done that. 5 hours just seems too quick to cap it.
Well, I imagine all they have to do is hit an emergency shutoff button that's,
Well, then why did it take 5 hours?
Because there was a fire in the ocean on oil that had been pumped up,
Maybe.
Chris.
I don't know. I don't know enough about this. It just seems crazy to me.
It's absolutely crazy. The ocean was on fire.
It defies cursory logic is what
It does.
Yes.
It does.
You got to look at the videos, though, because it's absolutely insane. And, I want to know how fire got introduced into the ocean.
These are the end times.
Because I understand you have an oil leak, but nothing about an oil leak suggests, okay, there's also going to be a fire.
I can imagine a fire on top of the ocean.
That's largely what it is.
Well, hang on now.
But if it's in the water itself,
maybe we can take a lesson from this. Okay, so obviously this happened accidentally. Right. Somehow
you would hope.
Could you purposely catch the ocean on fire?
Well, what I'm saying is to prevent future oil spills, right? So if it hadn't caught on fire, the news would be reading a huge oil spill in the Gulf or wherever this was, right? In the ocean. I assume the Gulf of Mexico, is that
the Gulf of Mexico?
So,
yes.
Another oil spill, right? Exxon and we've heard of oil spills.
BP's
before.
really good at
BP, right? So
they're like the pros at massive oil spills.
So what I'm saying is, perhaps the next time there's an oil spill, they could figure out how to do this in a controlled way, so as to burn all the oil and not totally ruin the environment.
Well, that's probably one way of dealing with it.
Just looking on the bright side here, can we take a lesson from this thing and apply it on purpose?
Did they ever figure out where the BP oil spill actually went? Because I know there was this massive thing with it. They're like, this is the largest oil spill in human history, and we have no idea how to do anything about this oil. And then they were like, oh, yeah, it's gone. Hold on. There's some pieces missing to this puzzle.
It took them a while to cap it, but I think they did cap it.
They did cap it, but they didn't do anything about the oil that had already leaked into the ocean.
No, it just lubed up the oceanic environment, and everything was a little slippery.
Doesn't it just dissolve or something?
Does oil dissolve in water? Did you take eighth grade chemistry?
Good point. Good point.
It clearly burns in water as well.
Wasn't there an argument though that like somebody was making that was like dissolving or something, like I don't know, or dispersing at least or something?
Just what they did is they took a giant bottle of Dawn dishwashing liquid, a couple of drops, and it just sort of separated and went away.
Yeah.
So back to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because the ocean caught on fire. And
I'm sorry, it's Ocasio.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that though.
Okay, that's fine.
But the ocean caught on fire, and that had to be talked about. Now, the Olympics is making a series of bad decisions, and we've been talking about a series of bad decisions. Yes, and so the first one they did, they banned this athlete. I think she's an American athlete. I don't really know, for smoking pot, which, as a lot of people have been pointing out on social media, is a performance decreasing drug, if anything.
If you can smoke weed and perform athletic things at an Olympic competition level, you should get a medal just for that.
Well, her statement is that, she's not a pothead. She only smoked weed on the occasion that, she learned during an interview that her mother was dead.
Yeah.
And she smoked weed in order to, cope with that.
Yeah.
Which isn't that bad, but still.
Sounds like a normal thing for people to do.
Can't compete in the Olympics. I mean, if only she had done something like taking a shot of alcohol.
Yeah,
that would have been totally okay.
If only she did tequila shooters or something instead, right?
Yes.
Then she'd be allowed to participate.
And it's not just that. They also banned certain types of headwear that are generally worn by black women. I don't remember exactly what they're called. They have the word Afro in them, and it's, designed for black athletes.
The cap for keeping their hair in place?
Yeah, for swimmers and divers and stuff. And they're like, no, we can't have those this year.
Jeez.
On top of that, they are also banning women who have high levels of testosterone. So the Olympic Committee is making a series of decisions that look very much like they're coming after black female athletes and that they just don't want them there.
It's dumb.
More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 3 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
Rescue efforts halted in Florida. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. Officials at the site of the collapsed condo tower in Surfside say search efforts have been temporarily suspended in preparation for demolition of the rest of the building. Authorities plan to knock the building down sometime tomorrow before Tropical Storm Elsa hits.
Initially, they thought it might take a couple of weeks, but we do have that storm off the coast of Florida, potentially threatening search and rescue crews here. It's a 13-story tower. It's hovering directly over the search and rescue crew. So if any effects from a tropical storm or a hurricane were to hit, there could be another catastrophe. And as far as the heavy winds or rain from the storm, the officials here say they feel like they're in the clear through around Sunday here in southern Florida.
Fox's Matt Finn. Businesses worldwide are trying to contain a ransomware attack that's paralyzed their computer networks. The problem is magnified in the U.S. because of reduced staff for the holiday. Some experts say there could be thousands of victims in one of the broadest ransomware attacks in history. President Biden says it does not initially look as though Russia is responsible. Cybersecurity experts say the REvil gang, a major Russian-speaking ransomware syndicate, appears to be behind the attack. The Vatican's criminal tribunal has indicted 10 people and 4 companies.
Among those people indicted, 4 former Vatican officials, including 2 from the Secretariat of State, all in connection with an investment in a London real estate venture to the tune of about $400 million. Vatican prosecutors accusing those suspects of bilking millions from the Holy See in fees and other losses. A July 27th trial date has been set.
Fox's Paul Stevens. Former President Trump is holding a rally this hour in Sarasota, Florida. Supporters began lining up yesterday, and thousands braved the summer heat today. America is listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer! But if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system. No matter how big your business grows, with visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow, all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
The U.S. Supreme Court this week turned away a case brought by a Washington state florist who denied service to a same-sex marriage. Baronelle Stutzman believes it was her right.
The government needs to understand that faith has been part of our constitutional rights. And I live by that. I can't drop that off at the steps of the church.
The Washington State Supreme Court ruled that Stutzman violated a civil rights law. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected the case, because not enough justices agreed to hear it. Animal shelters across the nation are bracing for what's often a busy weekend.
The days after the 4th of July are tough on animal shelters, which may get packed with pets freaked out by the sound of fireworks. They often run away from home hoping to escape the noise and wind up in places like the Santa Fe Animal Shelter in New Mexico. Spokesman Murad Kردar.
June was overwhelming to us. And as we go into the 4th of July weekend, which is also one of the busiest weekends for stray animals because of the fireworks, we are right now at overcapacity.
Plenty of animal advocates say this coming week would be a great one to volunteer some of your time at a local shelter. Jill Nato, Fox News.
It's beginning to look like old times in Las Vegas as people once again hope to hit the jackpot after the lockdown.
Sin City is back after 15 months of near ghost town tour.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Despite being objectively awful people, newly engaged couple Ross Bird and Jessica Black want their upcoming wedding to really reflect their personalities.
We're pulling out all the stops to have a kind of wedding that just screams us.
Yeah.
We're going to have a bluegrass band playing 80s pop songs. Because Ross loves bluegrass, but I love 80s music.
And then at the end of the ceremony, this is great, we're going to pass out sparklers to all the guests.
Sources claim that a bunch of candles in mason jars and an Instagram photo booth will truly capture the essence of the insufferable pair.
We didn't want some big, stuffy ceremony.
Yeah,
it should feel more like a fun dance party for our friends.
Because the night's about us, yes, but I mean, it's also, about the people who make us, us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And those people love us exactly for our uniqueness.
Sources hoped with every fiber of their being that these two would be divorced within a year.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, final full day of Fork Fest. You can come hang out with us next year, but realistically, if you're listening to this, you've already missed the party. You can find out more about it at forkfest.party. I'm not going to talk about the unofficial dates for next year yet because it's not clear on exactly what Fork Fest is, what we're going to promote that Fork Fest is doing, I guess is the way to put it. With you today, it's Aria.
The Reverend Captain Kickass is here.
And Chris.
And the Olympic Committee we were just discussing, I'm interested to see how this is actually going to play out because the public outcry about this athlete being banned for smoking pot has been intense.
Good. It should be. It should be more than intense. It should be so intense that they actually rescind the banning.
I expect they ultimately will, but who knows? They're making a series of stupid decisions, and that doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon. New York Democrat Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez claimed Friday that the rule barring marijuana use during the Olympic races was, quote, an instrument of racist and colonial policy. Now, I can see why she would say that it's racist, right? The drug war has always been racist.
Yes,
That's always been the point. But I don't know how colonialism gets dragged into it, except to, make all the leftists out there happy that, oh, yeah,
down with Whitey.
Colonialism.
Yeah,
Her comments followed the announcement that U.S. champion Sha'Carri, Richardson will not be running in the 100-meter race after she tested positive for THC, a chemical found in marijuana at the Olympic trials, voiding her first-place results. It amazes me that the Olympics are even still testing for pot. How do the Jamaicans get into the Olympics?
I don't know, man.
Wow.
Richardson,
Much less bobsledding competitions.
right?
Yeah.
Richardson, a black. I mean, you got to be high to be in Jamaica and go, we're going to become bobsledders. That's not the kind of thing you come up with unless you're baked, man. Richardson is a black woman from Texas, and she was given a 1-month suspension, which precludes her ability to race the 100 in Tokyo, but means she could still be in the running for the women's relay race, as the trial will not be held until after July the 27th. So so she could do part of the Olympics, I guess.
You read a bit in there that said voided her first place results, but it sounded like they were only testing. So I don't understand, how can somebody have first place results if they were only testing?
What? That's a good question. I imagine there's some sort of, trial run, sort of like how race cars do the pole position
If it
thing.
would have been the race, she would have been in the first place. So she's obviously very athletically able and talented. And
well, you don't get into the Olympics if you're not.
Right, obviously. But I mean, like, she's able to produce first place type results.
Yes. But she smoked pot at one point.
Disqualified.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I mean, didn't we go through this with, what was his name? The bicycle guy, Phelps, right? Where he he won and then later on they're like, oh, he's a pothead, and so they took his medal away or something. I don't remember the exact details.
I could see stimulants or something like that being a reason to ban people or disqualify them or whatever.
caffeine?
But
No, I don't care. You know what?
Caffeine would be a performance-enhancing drug.
Let's just allow people to use performance-enhancing drugs. Let's see how far people can get this thing carried away. Let's see how far they can push the limits of human capability. Why is there any stigma at all about using performance-enhancing drugs?
Well, generally because they're unhealthy and they give an unfair advantage to the people who choose not to use them.
Well,
who choose not to destroy their bodies and their minds in order to compete against people who chose to destroy their bodies and minds. I like Futurama's take on this was basically performance-enhancing drugs, steroids, were mandatory instead of against the rules. That way, everyone's on the same playing field again. If you want to be a professional athlete, you got to inject these steroids or whatever.
I mean, I don't if there's some anomaly out there that's 100% natural that can compete with folks who do the performance enhancing drug, they should be allowed to compete. So I don't like either way. I don't like banning people for, whatever substances, and certainly marijuana is not a performance enhancing drug. No, I'm sorry, it's just not. But then on the other side, I also don't want it to be mandatory for if you want to compete, you must take performance enhancing drugs.
That was a joke that a cartoon made. Okay. So I mean,
all right.
I mean, doesn't this kind of come down back to nationalists? And the idea of different nations and them wanting to there's certain things they want and don't want, basically.
To me, it comes down to a matter of, private property and private organizations. The Olympic Committee is ultimately allowed to set whatever rules they want, and I'm allowed to say those rules are stupid.
Sure.
Telling people they can't smoke pot and still be an Olympic runner is stupid. So she was actually banned for 3 months, but she agreed to participate in a counseling program, a drug counseling program for smoking pot, and that got it reduced to 1 month.
Wait. She did participate, but
she agreed to participate.
Okay, all right.
Which reduced the punishment from a 3-month suspension to a 1 month. Yes. The criminalization and banning of cannabis is an instrument of racist and colonial policy, Ocasio-Cortez said Friday. The International Olympic Committee should reconsider its suspension and any athletes penalized for cannabis use, because Richardson is not the first. 23-year-old gold medalist Michael Phelps, who you mentioned earlier, received a 3-month suspension from competition and lost his Kellogg sponsorship after a photo emerged that showed him smoking a marijuana pipe in 2009. They took away that. I don't think they would do that today.
Right, sorry, Kellogg's.
Nike kept their sponsorship of Richardson in spite of her, smoking pot. Phelps, a white man from Maryland, I don't see how that's relevant, never actually tested positive for marijuana, but acknowledged the photo's authenticity. The photo was reportedly taken 6 months after the 2008 Olympics, and his suspension ended in time for him to compete in the 2009 World Championships. He went on to say, "I am human." Richardson went on to say that she's human, and she was triggered by the death of her mother, definitely triggered and blinded by emotions, blinded by badness and hurting and hiding hurt. I know I can't hide myself, so in some type of way, I was trying to hide my pain. which, as we talked about, is kind of understandable when you learn that your mother died.
Totally.
And so she smoked some pot, and now the Olympic Committee has suspended her, saying that it's a performance-enhancing drug, presumably. It's unclear.
I don't understand. I don't understand it with any sport, even the Olympics. Any sport at all. The NFL is big on this, too. If you test positive for marijuana, you're benched or you're cut or whatever.
Really?
Right? Yeah. The NFL still has a heinous marijuana policy, even though, like, a bunch of NFL players smoke weed. Right, they've been busted many times. Somebody gets pulled over leaving the club. Oh, look, a bag of weed, right? And then they go and they test pot, whatever, that kind of thing. So it results in suspensions, and if you're a multiple offender, then you could face getting cut and all that kind of stuff. So it's very harsh against and marijuana. Again, not a performance-enhancing drug. Show me the clinical study on marijuana that says, hey, if you smoke marijuana, you're going to be a better physical athlete.
Well, what about the fact that marijuana is legal in a lot of places throughout the world? Sorry.
Bingo. Yeah. So what if you're an athlete, and I'll just use the NFL as an example because we've been talking about it, and you play in Colorado, right? That's the state that you normally play your home games
where
in.
Marijuana is
where
legal.
Marijuana is legal. And then you travel to, I don't know, where is it not legal?
I mean, it's New Hampshire.
Well, they're not going to play New Hampshire, but
well, yeah, but we just need an example. We don't need it.
I mean, it's not
we
about
don't need a
Foxborough, Massachusetts, where the Patriots play. A team travels there from Colorado.
Well, it's legal in Mass.
Oh well,
yeah. I mean,
right.
it doesn't sound like it's about legality. It sounds like it's about rules of this particular organization.
Yeah, but they need to get rid of rules that are stupid, right?
I don't
they need
disagree
to
with you.
adapt in order to stay relevant.
It's totally dumb.
It is dumb, and especially considering it's not even a performance-enhancing drug. So,
no, I mean, no one ever got better at doing anything except maybe making music or some other type of art by smoking pot. And they certainly never got better at playing football or basketball or more motivated to get out there and practice by smoking pot.
Right.
It's great for inspiration, really bad for motivation.
Yeah.
And
good for appetite, too, if you don't have one.
It is good for appetite. It's also good for anxiety and stuff like that. I mean, It's got a lot of therapeutic benefits and a lot of medicinal benefits, which is why, medical marijuana became a thing in the first place. The science finally caught up with, what people have been saying for the last century, at least. But the government's always slow to catch up. Like, even now, marijuana is still federally prohibited. Schedule 1 saying it has no medicinal benefits whatsoever, while states across it's legal in some form in more than half of the states.
Yeah.
Absolutely
doesn't mean
bizarre.
the feds aren't going to come after you.
Nope. More coming up from Fort Fest. This is Free Talk Live.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
When you're coping with bad news and the news media come calling, and they will, don't clam up. As notorious political figures find out the hard way, the cover-up can be worse than the crime. So get out in front of unfavorable news about your company, your group, or organization, or yourself. The sooner you confront a negative story, the sooner it will be over. Responding as quickly to negative stories as you do to positive ones enhances your credibility. Hiding embarrassing information or lying will do more damage than damage control. Never stonewall. Tell your side of the story, use specifics, and detail what corrective action has already been taken. Respond in kind. If the issue is emotional, don't sound like a cold, unemotional Mr. Spock. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com. Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, celebrating here at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Unfortunately, you probably can't make it if you are not already here, because by the time you're hearing this, we're already, the fireworks have already happened, because we're in like the third hour of the show now, so it's all very confusing. But check us out next year. Forkfest.party is the website. You can find all the information there. Captain and I are now being joined by a longtime listener and caller of the show. People will immediately recognize your voice. Welcome, Kirby.
Good morning.
We're so glad to have you. It's Kirby's first fest.
Yes, and you came all the way up here from Indiana, in fact.
Good old Indiana, no place where it looks better than a rearview mirror.
That's how I felt when I was leaving Kentucky. I was like, good, I will never in my life have to go back to Kentucky, because it was the first time I'd ever passed through Kentucky, and I just hated knowing that I was in a place like Kentucky. And then I end up scheduling to go to a music festival that is, in fact, in Kentucky. So, bad decision on my part.
Kentucky ain't that bad. It's, what is it? What they tell me it was the northernmost southern state.
That's hilarious. I've spent plenty of time in the South as a much younger man, and I learned some very valuable lessons down there. But the one that I learned the most was, oh my gosh, they have great food.
Yeah, they do.
There is good food in the South. I'll give you that.
And weed is Kentucky's #1 cash crop still.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. Marijuana is?
Yep. They make more money on weed than they do horses.
Okay. Cool.
I don't remember ever getting a hold of a Kentucky strain of marijuana.
Yeah, it's just ditch weed for the most part. But it's weed.
Okay, I did not know that. But I mean so I guess that's black market weed, essentially.
I don't know. I know a lot of farmers actually feed it to their animals.
Oh, nice.
Because it's a grass.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, it's better for them than hay. And it's certainly better for them than soy.
Yeah, and the medicinal properties that we talked about in the last segment of marijuana certainly would apply to animals as well. Very
cool. So this is your first time at Forkfest. Are you having a good time?
Oh, I'm having a blast. I ain't going to lie to you. I'm sitting here, folks, and I'm looking at mountains that you could almost reach out and touch. This is a beautiful state. The people up here seem to be humans.
Yeah.
They're definitely not like the ones back in Indiana.
That's definitely the case here at Fork Fest. I mean, you have a lot of individuals here who are pro-liberty, pro-freedom, open-minded, independent, which is fitting for Independence Day. It's not necessarily going to be true everywhere in New Hampshire. I mean, once you get into the cities, you start running into the sort of unthinking robots that we all generally recognize the masses as being. But those people certainly, unfortunately, exist in New Hampshire. We just happen to have a large number of libertarians here as well.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, the welcome I received when I got here has been phenomenal.
Just about everyone knows you, right? Or we feel like we know you.
Yeah, apparently so. At some points, it's like, you're Kirby? I'm like, yeah. Oh, we wanted to see you. So now we got a face to the name.
Yeah, that's fair. So the reception has been positive for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. I'm glad to hear. Because, I mean, you have been calling this show for years. When Captain said you had come in, I was like, Kirby's here? Really? Awesome. Because
I think you were like, that Kirby? I'm like, that's the one.
Yeah.
You know?
It's awesome to have you here. Glad you finally made it up. So what made you decide to come up this year versus any other year?
Well, I came up here with a friend, but my biggest motivation was I actually wanted to see if this was all real.
Okay.
If what nobody was telling me was accurate, and because he's been trying to get me to come up here.
Sure.
And it is accurate. This is, I'm right now surrounded by people who actually want to be free. They just don't say they want to be free. And it's a difference. I can tell if you're lying to me about what you want is freedom.
Yeah.
Because I know that's what I want. I personally feel like I'm sick of the government telling me what I can and cannot do. I'm sick of banks raping me for my money, and I'm sick of paying for the rest of the world to come up. It's just hard to put into words. I'm 60 years old and I'm sick of most of everything.
Well, that's fair. And I mean, the government is such a pervasive force in everyone's lives that it would be the number one thing we all get sick of, is constantly telling us what we can and can't do and constantly punishing us for breaking any of its arbitrary edicts. And
it makes you feel like a serf.
That's the way it's designed, right? It's, as we were talking about earlier, it's the ultimate parental figure for people. It's the one that ultimately controls the belt and grounds them and punishes them. And that's just what it does. And you do have here at Fork Fest just a lot of libertarians who actively walk that lifestyle. You know, we don't just want to be free. We are free.
Yeah, I see a lot of people here who want to take that parent's belt away from them and use it on them.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment, sure, but I don't think it's the way to achieve meaningful, lasting change.
Well, there's something to be said here for defense, right? Because while libertarians, anarchists, voluntarists, whatever, they subscribe to the non-aggression principle, that doesn't make them pacifists. That just means that they're only willing to use force in defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so because I've been talking to you for the last couple of days, Kirby, I know in New Hampshire we have something called Gun Church, but you also do a gun church. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, we stole it from you guys, but what we're doing.
Well, we don't believe in intellectual property, so have at it.
Yeah, so you're a branch.
Yeah, and what we're doing is we're giving free firearms lessons to everybody, free classes for the masses. Whether you've touched a gun before in your life or you're an advanced shooter, we just want people to come out, enjoy themselves, and learn the basics of how to use a firearm without A, killing yourself or someone else.
Yeah.
And
valuable information.
And find out that it truly is a sport. It's more fun than bowling. A little more expensive than bowling, but
sure.
Hey, but it's a practical skill.
Yeah.
So, what are the prospect of you moving to New Hampshire? Is that in the cards?
It's on the table. I won't say yay or nay.
Okay.
But it's absolutely on the table, and believe it or not, it wasn't till I got here.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's how I got here as well. You know, I had never in my life considered moving to New Hampshire, and then I came for Fork Fest and Pork Fest one year, and I was like, okay, I'm going to move here.
Yeah.
And I think the next year was the year that I came and just stayed. because that's just what happens here. People see freedom, they get a taste for it, and they want more of it.
Yeah.
And they see that, here in New Hampshire, there are a large number of battles being waged, not just, like things like the Crypto 6 and stuff like that, but in courtrooms where people are suing Sununu. We have a large number of libertarian-leaning representatives in the House. There's an actual impact being had by libertarians in the state of New Hampshire. And when people see that, they want to take part in it. They want to help build this freedom movement that is ongoing. Because the mission isn't accomplished. People are still working hard on bringing actual liberty to people. But I prefer to just be free.
Yeah, if you have thought about moving and you're a libertarian type, please consider moving to New Hampshire.
Yeah, we need all the help we can get up here. And that's ultimately so that we can secede from the monstrosity that is the U.S. government. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
Free Talk Live.
The U.S. doesn't show up in the top 10 on any chart at all at this point as far as freedom from an economic or social standpoint.
Well, I still think you're doing a great disservice to the country by continuously putting us down.
Who's
Good
us?
luck, goodbye.
Okay, well, Dan, I'm just Dan doesn't want to talk about facts.
What do you mean you're challenging my ideas? I've been watching Fox News all day. I know that this is correct.
Canada, New Zealand, places like that, they show up more economically free.
Huge militaries are not exactly known for bringing a great deal of freedom, sir. And, if you're number one in per capita population in prison, I think that's another indicator that you might be living in a police state. And if your police are murdering people every single day in numbers that can't compare to the rest of the planet, maybe you think twice about the whole freedom thing.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa. Hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute.
Forget it.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me?
Because you scared me.
You
What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Fork Fest 2021 here in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire at Rogers Campground as every year. And we're finally joined now by Crosby. I mean, you're a busy dude. I thought I was busy, but I look around and you're significantly older than me. I just constantly see you working and doing stuff. It is absolutely amazing. Thank you for coming on. Like I said, I know you're a busy guy.
And the first thing I want to say is thank you for having us.
Well, we appreciate having you. So it goes both ways.
Oh, we love being here for sure. And I'm surprised by the number of people that are here and that are still coming in.
Well, and we follow the 2 weekends because Pork Fest is the first one.
Yeah.
And then the second one is the 4th of July, which is a different Independence Day thing. And quite a few people, because it is a 3 or 4 day holiday for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They come in and they stay the 3 or 4 days and get a little vacation. And this year I think it's even more so because of the fact that last year we were definitely hindered with the COVID and stuff like that, you know. So yeah. I think this year people just wanted to get out and they did. And plus there was a lot of people who stayed over from Pork Fest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there really were. And there is a fireworks show presumably going to happen down here in the bowl tonight. We were talking about that a moment ago. Apparently, there's a lot of droughts. You wouldn't know it from the last few days of rain. I can't imagine New Hampshire is still in a state of drought at this point.
Yeah, but we're hurting up here.
Yeah, up here in the mountains. Yeah, there were some water issues, but I mean, that's just to be expected when you have this many people in one place.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear. I went in town and had some dinner the other night and heard some of the locals at a table next to me talking about how they needed the rain and they're welcoming the rain. And so I was like, well, they must really need it if the locals are clamoring for it, so to speak. So is the fireworks show on for tonight? Do you
As
know?
of right now, it is.
Okay, awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll see what happens. I don't think he'll make a decision until later this afternoon.
Okay. So Ian and I were talking about this yesterday. Next year, the 4th of July is on a Monday. Will the fireworks show be on the 4th of July, or would it be on the Saturday before?
It will probably be on Sunday.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
And then Monday will be a travel day.
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, it's a beautiful place, and I'm just amazed at how well you keep it maintained. I mean, obviously, it's good to have the libertarians here who just generally pick up behind themselves, but not everyone does. But even so, you look around, and the campground is luxuriously cut and maintained. It's impressive.
I tell you the truth, we're down to only 2 maintenance men this year.
Really?
We had 3, but employment's a little bit difficult up here.
Mm-hmm.
But we're down to 2, and they do a pretty darn good job, tell you the truth. They're out here with the mowers, and they keep it down. And of course, with last week with everybody being here, that kept it down too. That helped us a little bit.
Well, that's good.
So our mowing has been sporadic. We just go out and put a guy on a mower in the morning, and he comes back in at night.
Well, it's amazing that 2 people are able to take care of this because, I mean, this is the largest campground in New Hampshire. This place is huge.
It is.
If you walk around the full campground, you've probably walked at least a mile or 2. I don't know exactly what size it is, but it's huge.
Yeah.
It's so huge that you could hang out here all week and not even see some people. Like if they just happen to be on the other side of the campground or whatever.
Well, we have seasonals who come and they say, well, what about this? What about that? All things that they have gone by, walked by, and see them, and nobody even recognize it. They'll say, well, you don't have horseshoes. Well, we got 3 pits down there, and they walk every day, and they go right by them, and they don't see them. And you say, well, didn't you see them when you walked by? And they say, no.
There are horseshoe pits here?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and I've been coming here every year for the last 4 years. So, I mean, it's a huge campground, and it's very easy to just miss things. I didn't even know there was what is it called, shuffleboard thing?
Yeah, shuffleboard up by the tennis courts.
There's shuffleboard?
Yeah.
And I walk by it, dude, multiple times a day.
Wow.
And never noticed it. I mean, there's a tennis court, too, but it's easy just to sort of filter these things out when I don't play tennis, but I never paid any attention to the fact that there was, in fact, a tennis court until I saw someone practicing tennis. I was like, oh. Didn't even realize that was here.
And they have other fun things too. Like I haven't been in, but you have an arcade here.
We have a large arcade. We also have, this is the second year now. We have miniature golf.
Oh yeah, I saw that at the bottom of the hill. Is that open?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I assumed it was closed for some reason.
No, the only thing that we have closed right now is the water slide.
See, I didn't know you had a water slide.
Yeah.
That's how big this place is, though. I mean, it's got all sorts of attractions. And this is the best place to have a liberty-oriented festival by far because there's so much to see and do that even coming here 4 years in a row, I haven't seen and done everything there is to do here.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even get into things like all of the people who are here that you can hang out with.
Right, yeah.
I did
several vendors and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun.
The only reason I learned about the shuffleboard court, I guess is the word, was that Matt, who's often on the show, was up there playing with Dr. Lupo. And I was like, oh, that's neat.
Wow.
Walked by it multiple times a day.
You're like, what are you guys doing over there? We're shuffleboarding. Oh, wow.
So it's amazing that you've been able to just maintain this level of excellence over the years and do it from your age. I mean, I hope to be retired when I'm 60 and you're going stronger than I'm going at my age.
Well, my problem is if I didn't retire, I'd drive people nuts. Just hanging around. I just don't hang around. I don't know what there is. I have to do something, get up in the morning, make a decisions or whatever you have to do. You know, it's just fun, and I enjoy that part of it. But to be honest with you, I've been doing this for 23 years. Now, the average campground owner only lasts 8 years.
Ooh.
So
I imagine it's a lot of work.
It is. You get long days. You're almost like a fireman. You're waiting for something to happen so you can repair it, so you can correct it or whatever you're going to do to it. It takes a certain amount of effort out of you. And plus, last year I fell and broke a hip. So
did you?
Yeah, I came off a piece of machinery at the end of the year when we were putting them away and landed on the blacktop up there.
Oh,
I'm glad you mostly recovered.
Slow me down.
Yeah,
doesn't look like it anyway. You're still going.
It doesn't. I was talking with you about that earlier up near the office. I mean, you don't strike me as the type who's ever going to retire.
I don't think so. I got to find something. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something.
Man needs to have purpose, right? You know, if a man doesn't have purpose, then he sort of loses himself. So, good on you, man.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, before I bought the campground, I was an oral surgeon for 30 years.
I didn't know that.
And I had a patient, an older lady, who was actually the first female attorney hired by Travelers Insurance Company. And she had maybe 15, 20 ponies, little tiny horses. And everyone had its own diet. Everyone got a certain amount of oats, a certain amount of corn, a certain amount of bran and everything. And only she knew this. Now, she came in to see me, and I called the doctor up, and the doctor says, for God's sakes, don't touch her because she'll die in the chair if you do that. That's how brittle she is. And every morning she got up and she fed those ponies, and nobody else could feed those ponies but her.
That is amazing.
So I think I've followed her footsteps for a little while without the ponies.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the campground is your ponies then, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a gorgeous pony, and thank you so much for letting us come here year after year, for letting the Porcupine Freedom Festival happen year after year. I can't imagine anywhere else that would even be sufficient to holding these festivals. And this place, it meets the needs and then excels beyond that, and it's ultimately because of you. Amazing jobs.
Well, it's surprising how acceptable the town has made it for people to come. In the beginning, it wasn't. They got all up in arms and everything like that and made all kinds of noises. But, after the period of time now, they're beginning to realize that, hey, this is not a bad deal at all. These people come in and they spend a considerable amount of money here.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to sit here with us.
Well, thank you for inviting us. I appreciate it.
Anytime. You're always welcome.
Anytime any people want to come back anytime.
Yep. That's Rogers Campground. Check it out. We're here every year. More coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, the final episode of Free Talk Live that's pre-recorded at Rogers Campground for Fork Fest 2021. We've been here for 2 weeks now. Chris, you've been here the full 2 weeks as well. Captain, you came in earlier this week.
On Wednesday, yeah.
Tonight there's going to be a fireworks show. Presumably, it's still unclear whether or not that's actually moving forward. I mean, we just spoke with Crosby, and he wasn't sure whether or not that's actually moving forward. So it's a lot of variables here, but either way, it's been a fantastic time. And I love seeing these people here year after year because a lot of them I only see once a year, and it's a great time to reconnect and have a good time with people.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even though there's a lot of people from within New Hampshire who are at this event, we're spread out. We're spread out a little bit. We're a couple hours in some cases from each other, or more even. So don't always get to see each other on a regular basis.
And my favorite part, of course, is folks like Kirby and Scott who came up from Indiana for their first time, right? I love meeting the new people who like, and Kirby alluded to it too. He was like, I just wanted to come up and see if this is real. And I guess like, that's a perspective that I have to consider for our listeners, right? You listen to the show and you hear all the stuff that we talk about. Maybe you see some of the videos and that kind of thing, some of the festivities around Pork Fest and Fork Fest, that kind of thing. And you're like, well, I just, is this thing for real? I got to go see.
Well, I mean, we do the show from here. I don't know how much realer
well, no, I don't mean real as in like, is it real? But like come and see, is it genuine?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Are these people genuine about what they're doing? Do they have some sort of other agenda behind, the talk show and, the festivals and all that kind of thing? And no, it's really just because we want freedom apparently more than everybody else does.
You know what I really liked about this year is that there were so many new people. I think it was like 3/4 of the people here were new. According to I think it was. I don't know.
You're talking about the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Yeah,
that's over. Screw that. We're talking about Fork Fest.
Fair enough. But there's still new faces in the crowd here too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were just talking with Kirby, who has never been here before.
Right. So this is one of the great things about these events.
And the Big Kahuna's here for his first fest as well.
He also is a new mover.
Correct. And he's been coming to our gatherings in Keene at the Social Sundays for some time, on and off, and he's making the move. So.
See, prior to the arrival for the Porcupine Freedom Festival, I was working on Sundays. I no longer am, other than Free Talk Live. So I can finally have a social life again. I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really great to meet there's a bunch of people who actually have moved here to Keene and New Hampshire that I met at this Fork Fest. So that was really interesting. And there's new people to the Fork Fest and community as well that hopefully will be planning a move in next 6 months, maybe a year from now.
I would definitely prefer people move to the Monadnock region or the Keene area if they're going to move to New Hampshire. Let's take control of this because Keene is like the liberal stronghold in New Hampshire, right?
Seems true.
That's where we need to begin our attack against the state is, where they're strongest. And that's Keene. I mean, these are people who love their meter maids.
Yeah, if you want to fight with the state, it's a great place to fight it.
It is because the state always wants to pick fights with people. Like when we had the nightcap at Central Square, is that still even going on?
It is, yeah. As a matter of fact,
even while we're here, it's going on.
Yeah, I want to thank Pokey for keeping it alive for the last 2 Saturdays.
Fridays.
I'm sorry, Fridays. Thank you. Well, it goes into Saturday morning.
Okay,
so,
fair point.
whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it technically does start on Saturday.
Yeah, that's true. But he knows everybody's, at the festivals, and he has been stopping in on the Friday night at midnight and making sure that particular thing stays alive, that at least one of us shows up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's actually,
I look forward to being back at those.
Yeah,
it's actually really entertaining because even when we're here at these events, these events still go on. Like Social Sunday, I think still happened, as well as Folking Friday. So it's like there's a lot of people here. Be careful
how you say that on the air. That was really close, Chris.
Keene Friday.
Yes,
that's
what he said. There's a restaurant in Keene that is called Pho, and then the word Keene, and then the word great, because it's located in the town of Keene.
Right.
Sure.
That's where it gets its name from. Just don't say it so quickly, I would ask.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, all of these things are regularly happening, whether we're here in, at Fork Fest or not. Once we get back to Keene, we're going to have larger crowds at Social Sundays. There's a crypto meetup every 6 days. I haven't been to one of those in forever. I mean, what's the benefit of going now that I can't even use crypto? But I still want to attend the meetup and socialize with people. So I will again be able to do those sorts of things.
2 crypto meetups a week, one every 6 days, and the Friday meetup. So,
what? Oh, that's right. There is a Friday thing now at the Vietnamese place, Pho Keen. Great.
Yes,
right.
Correct.
Now, what do you call that meetup?
Well, we call it Pho Keen Fridays.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, it is crypto, but it's also social. You know, if you're not into crypto and you want to learn about it, feel free to come. But it was more.
Well, that's the point of all of these things. It's not to just celebrate cryptocurrency. It's to bring people who have similar interests together so they can become friends. And
yeah, it's honestly, it's an educational thing that we do in Keene.
It is outreach.
It's outreach for sure. We're not really looking. I mean, if it's just us, I mean, it's a fun social event, but really the objective is to bring new people in and, teach them how to use cryptocurrency. Not that it's hard.
And we've seen more people like sort of visit Keene as they investigate New Hampshire. A lot of folks who maybe are considering moving will come for a day or a week or a weekend or something like that. And sometimes they can't make it to Sunday, right? That's their travel day. And so if we have a thing on Friday, they can visit that one too.
Absolutely.
So it just gives them more options.
Yeah, and that's why the crypto meetup itself was changed to every 6 days. That way it's always on each week it's on a different day, which opens the possibility of, maybe this person regularly works on Mondays and can't make the Monday one. So if we do it every 7 days, they won't ever be able to make it. So, I mean, but that is the point of all of this, is to outreach to local people who may be curious, hey, what are you people doing, whipping out your phones and scanning QR codes to pay for these things? They become curious, they ask about it. And just like that, you have a new person involved in cryptocurrency, which is the goal.
Yeah. And I just want to touch, we talked a little bit about, Facebook and their messaging about extremists or extremism. You may have been exposed to extremism. Well, control is extremism, and government only wants control. So no matter how they spin it, freedom is not extreme. Right? The desire for freedom for yourself and for your family and for other individuals in your community, not extreme. What is extreme is an organization of violence that wants to control everybody and tell them what to do and how to do it.
I don't even know that extremist is really necessarily a bad thing. If I'm extremely good, I'm an extremist, right? And that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
Well, the way they're using it in the political sphere, it's a negative. It's meant to be a negative thing.
Sure.
There's a reason they always point to, Muslim extremists and white right-wing extremists.
Yeah.
And
they've been calling people domestic terrorists, and that hasn't really gone over very well. And so now they've changed their verbiage now to be extremists.
Well, they ran out of domestic terrorists, so they have to create a new terrorist, and so they went after extremists.
Yeah, same target audience, different terminology.
It's a very common idea among people, though. I remember when in 2008, when Ron Paul, or 2012, I don't remember what year it was that he ran, but Ron Paul ran, and just a totally normal friend of mine in Mississippi was like, "You like Ron Paul? Isn't he kind of a kook? Isn't he kind of extreme?" It's like, dude, do you realize you just said that the ideas of living your life and not having a government point a gun at your head is extreme? That's an extreme idea. Just peacefully coexisting with one another.
Yeah.
That's the least extreme idea I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, the ideas that founded this country are extremist ideas under the logic of current government.
Well, I will take the ideas that founded this country and take them to their most extreme, right?
Yes.
Classical liberalism, sure, it's a good idea. Libertarianism is a better idea, and it's a more extreme version of classic liberalism.
You say carry them to the extreme. I say carry them to their logical conclusion.
I would agree as well.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they knew that the government that governs best is the government that governs least, right? So they knew, they just didn't carry it to the full conclusion. Okay, well, then the absolute best government we could have would be no government.
Right.
And that's 100% true as far as I can tell. Human beings don't need this organization that exists solely to put guns to our heads and steal from us.
Not with all the technology we have, the cell phones, the internet, right? The ability to communicate, the ability for news to travel at the speed of light, right? So if something bad does happen, well, guess what? People can react to it individually or collectively if they so choose. We don't need this overriding organization of people pointing at guns and telling them how they're going to handle the situation.
No, and this way they handle the situation is always with violence, and I come from a position that violence is almost never actually necessary. And sure, there are times when you may have to defend yourself or something like that, but As we were just talking
Yeah.
about regarding Nobody, he managed to defend himself without actually engaging in any violence.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to approach these kinds of things. Well, thank you for listening. It's been a wonderful festival. We're online. In the meantime, head on over to freetalklive.com and join our chat server. You can find it at social.freetalklive.com. We'll see you there. This is Free Talk Live.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correa, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin.